Cool. Thank you. Let's go ahead and mute everybody and get right into it. Great. All right, go ahead and share screen. If you can see my screen, okay. Give me a thumbs up. Yeah? The screen okay? Okay, good. So, welcome to 21 Days Real Estate Riches, day 16, coming around the home stretch. And today was going to be the day that we were going to flip the switch on really going full on talking about how to put this thing on autopilot. But I realized two things. One, there's a couple more things we still need to deal with from the quick cash generator. Mainly, I think it's probably worthwhile just looking at the way you guys have uploaded your homework, going over, one more time, the Mayo formula and exit strategies, talk a little bit about that. And then wanted to talk briefly, well, you know what, we're not going to talk about tonight, but did everybody get their week 3 booklet, week 3 book? Yes? Give me a thumbs up if you got week 3. Okay, so you'll need that for tomorrow's class. So bring that with you tomorrow, because tomorrow we are going to talk about making the transition into autopilot. Okay, so bring that with you tomorrow. Okay, so first out the gate, important information. You should have gotten your week 3 booklet. If you didn't, please let us know. Best way, quite frankly, to let us know that you're missing something is go to www.needhelpasklisa.com. So Lisa takes care of all sort of back office, admin, can't find this. And then here inside the classroom, I'll take care of questions like, how do we do Mayo formula, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if something's missing, that's really a Lisa thing, okay? So, shall we pray? That'd be a good thing. Dear Lord, we thank you so much for bringing us together. We thank you for allowing us to just continue to learn and share and grow. We just ask that you just continue to have your hands upon our families, our businesses, and most importantly, that we be a reflection of you in all that we do. In Jesus' name, amen. So, the apprentice class is almost full. If you were thinking about taking it, you probably want to move on that sooner rather than later. I guess everybody want to take advantage of that early bird discount, and that was very smart on your part, those of you who did. And if you do have any questions about the life-changing education and the apprentice class, please also reach out to Lisa if you guys are looking for a payment plan, that kind of stuff. And we do offer a couple of scholarships. We always offer first responder and healthcare worker scholarships. But to access the information, it's all pretty self-explanatory. Payment information's on there. Just go to www.lifechangingeducation.com. Lifechangingeducation.com. Okay. I'm looking at your guys' homework. I'm commenting on your homework. You guys are doing a great job with those contracts. Clearly, many of you are ready to sort of hit the road and get the show on the road and start working with an agent. Reminder, I can't work with you. Real investors can't work with you unless you send in your exclusive buyer broker agreement. So if you want to work with us, send it to broker@realinvestors.com or fax it to 301-218-4337, 301-218-4337. And we just need to get the buyer broker agreement in place so that we can have that fiduciary relationship. If you don't want to work with us, that's fine. But whoever you do work with, they're going to ask you for that first before they get started working with you. Okay. And you want that. You do not want to be unrepresented. That's not a good way to be. So real quick, we are still kind of finishing up, but I'm ready to transition. So we're going to hit this full on tomorrow. And I thought I'd give you sort of a special treat. Somebody who's been an insider for a number of years can talk to you about, the differences between working with an investor agent versus your sort of run-of-the-mill generalist real estate agent who just got their license. And I'm really looking forward to that part of the conversation, but I want to go over 2 things before we get there. So we are here literally at the last 2 items. I know I was probably a little ambitious last week, thinking I was going to get it all in 1 week, but still plenty of time to talk about putting the thing on autopilot, transitioning out. So you're not going to miss anything. I promise. Absolutely promise. In fact, you're getting more than I thought I was going to give you. I'm happy about that. I don't know if you guys are happy. You guys are happy because you're getting more than I was. Okay, good. Like, Sherman, get on with it. All right, so just one more time, and looking at your guys' homework, it just seemed like you probably needed for me to go over this Mayo formula one more time and say what I said one more time. So again, the Mayo formula, Mayo stands for maximum allowable offer. The Mayo formula is you take the fair market after repair value. So what is the fair market after repair? In other words, what would the house potentially be worth once it's fixed up? Okay. ARV meaning after repair. Fair market meaning I'm going to go pull some comps. And I'm looking at the comps for similar kinds of houses in similar neighborhoods. If I can't find similar houses in that neighborhood, I might go over one or two neighborhoods over, but I'm not pulling from way across town. It's got to be similar. And I'm looking at what houses sold for in the last 6 months. And then I multiply that times the loan to value that's generally being quoted in the market by hard money lenders. And from that, I subtract the repair costs. So it looks like this. Mayo is equal to the fair market after repair value. Right now, hard money lenders are generally quoting 0.75. If the market's really, really slow, they may go down to 0.6. Okay, in other words, what that says is we will loan you 75% of value. That's on the upper end of the range. In a really slow market, like coming out of a recession or in the middle of a recession, and the market's really, really slow, hard money lenders will loan like 60% of the value. Okay, so where do we get this number from? Put it in the chat box. Where do we get this number? Who gives that to us? Who has that number? Who gives it to us? Put that in the chat box, please. Correct. Hard money lender, hard money lender. So by talking to hard money lenders, we will find out exactly what they're quoting at that period of time. Okay. If you don't know any better and you haven't talked to a hard money lender yet, just use 0.70. 0.75 is towards the upper end of the market. That's a really hot market. Okay. Minus your repair costs. So where do we get the fair market after repair value? Where do we get that number? Where do we get that? Put it in the chat box, please. Precisely. MLS is what's known as pulling comps. And comps come from the MLS. Exactly. And then where do we get the repair costs? Where do we get that number? Where do we get the repair costs from? Exactly. Contractor. Now, when you're first getting started, you get those first batch of offers out the door. You probably haven't met with a contractor yet. You probably haven't walked through a property yet. You probably haven't had a conversation yet about what repair costs are. This is one of those areas where if you're working with a real investors diamond coach or a real estate agent who does a lot of rehabbing, they'll kind of have a handle on what rehab costs are, generally speaking, for the neighborhood where you're going to be submitting offers. So when you're first getting that first batch of offers out the door, that number is probably going to come from a more experienced investor like your diamond coach who's going to say, hey, based on what I'm seeing in Lanham Seabrook, hey, based on what I'm seeing in Capitol Heights, hey, based on what I'm seeing right now in that part of Bowie, this is what construction costs look like. And if they don't know, they have a greater ability to pick up the phone and call one of their other clients and ask than you probably do when you're first getting started. So does everybody see how that works? So you pull comps, you take the app I've given you, again, work with your diamond, your diamond member coach who can help you figure out where one neighborhood begins, another one ends. Use the 0.75 if the market's really hot, use 0.60 if the market's really slow, and if you're not really sure, use 0.70, and then have your diamond member coach tell you what it looks like in terms of repair costs right now. And like I said, any of these numbers right here, if you don't know and they don't know, your diamond member coach has a much greater possibility of picking up the phone and getting the right answer off of one or two phone calls because they have clients who do know. Don't always feel like, well, gee, unless I have the perfect answer, I'm not going to do anything. That's the wrong approach. The right approach is let me go find somebody who knows. And if you find somebody who's in the business every day, if they don't know, they know who to call to get the right answer. But the most important thing is just get those offers out the door. Now, once you get the offers out the door and you start to focus on specific neighborhoods, you're going to know what the fair market after repair value is. And once you start talking to hard money lenders, you're going to know. And once you start visiting properties during the highest and best period or best and final period, you're going to know. Okay? You learn this business by doing it. So if you don't know the answer when you start, go to somebody who does and get the right answer. And position yourself, get yourself in a position to be able to get out there and go meet with the contractors based on the fact that you're getting highest and best. And anybody remember what I said was generally the percentages? If you get 100 offers out the door, how many highest and best conversations should you expect to have? Anybody remember? Exactly. 3 to 5%, 3 to 5. It has been consistent. I've been teaching folks how to get started in this business and make money in this business for over 20 years now. And it has consistently been 3 to 5%. Okay. All right. So anybody have any questions on the Mayo formula that you'd like to ask me in the chat box? We'll take a minute or two and talk about that. I just want to make sure everybody's getting it. Okay. Got a question about the Mayo formula? Something you don't understand, something that's not clear, something I rushed through too quickly? Feel free to ask me right here and now. Anybody? Anybody? Okay. All right, next thing I want to talk about, and I sort of rushed through this yesterday, so let's spend a little time. Red light, yellow light, green light. Red light, yellow light, green light. So when you put offers on properties, approximately, I said, anybody have any questions? Nobody has questions. I go to the next topic like, excuse me, can you go over the Mayo formula one more time? No worries. No worries. All right, so back to the Mayo formula, and then we'll talk about red light, green light, and exit strategies. Let's say that I'm looking at real properties, real offers, real neighborhoods. And I'm looking at, I don't know, I'm trying to think. Forgive me, guys, I'm just searching for something so I can have a real live example. Okay, there we go. That's a good example. So let's say I'm looking at this house, Capitol Heights, 738 Capitol Heights Boulevard. This is a deal I did a number of years ago. This is actually my first rehab where I got a real serious check. So let's say that I'm looking at this house, Capitol Heights. By the way, this is what it looked like. Blow it up a little bit more. (738) Capitol Heights Boulevard. This is what it looked like before we bought it. And that's what it looked like after we finished. You guys see that okay? Give me a thumbs up. And I think 20 years ago, I think I paid like $45,000 for it. If I were going out looking at houses in Capitol Heights today, this house is probably, I don't know, maybe 150, 160. Yeah, probably about 150, 160. So when I pull my comps, first of all, when I look at the listings, I'm probably going to see something that looks like this, the house on the left. That's what's going to look like. But when I pull my comps to see what I should pay, I should be looking for houses that look like the one on the right. In other words, houses that are relatively decent shape, roof is okay, nice coat of paint. It doesn't have to be brand spanking new or recently rehabbed, but it ought to look in a whole lot better shape than this one, because this one needs a whole lot of TLC. Does everybody see that? Yes? So let's say when I go into Capitol Heights, I see that houses that generally look a lot like this, you know, 3-bedroom. This is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. I'm not sure I'd recommend going after 3-bedroom, 1-bath, but I made money on it. Let's say it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and let's say this is the 3-bedroom, 2-bath. When I'm looking for houses like this, I might see 185, 195, 205, right? So if I'm seeing 185, 195, 205, a range, what should I use for my fair market ARV? Anybody want to tell me? Put it in the chat box. What should I use if I'm seeing 185, 195, 205? What should I use? What should I use? What should I use? Okay, that's why we're having this conversation. Let me go ahead and insert some text. And let me go ahead and change to that handwritten font. And whoever unmuted yourself, please mute yourself back up, because we are all muted at this point in time. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So I'm going to use 185. Because I said yesterday, generally speaking, we want to try and buy on the low and sell on the high. Okay? So I'm going to use 185. So for me, my Mayo formula looks like 185, right? Times 0.75. So what's that look like? 185 times 0.75. Please put in the chat box. Tell me what that looks like. What's that look like? So if I take 185 times 0.75, I come up with 138,750. Is anybody coming up with a different number than 138,750? All right, so 138. 138,750. Okay, minus my repair costs. And I'm thinking my repair costs is going to be, let's just say, as I said the other day, 50,000. That's probably on the high side for a house this small. Well, let's just use 50,000. Okay, therefore, my Mayo, my maximum allowable offer out the gate, the calculator, is 88,750. Now, let's assume for a second that I'm not the only person making an offer on this house, okay? Let's assume for a second that the seller has gotten offers for 95,000, 98,000. Let's say they've gotten offers for 88, my offer 88,750, 99, and so, sorry, 88,75, 95, and 98. All right, everybody see that? So in other words, somebody else has offered $7,000 more. Somebody else has offered $10,000 more. Does everybody understand that? Everybody got that? You got that? Give me a thumbs up. Now, what if the other people have a contract that has a lot of junk in it. Subject to this inspection, subject to that inspection, subject to this thing, that thing, subject to my mama coming out and my mama telling me it's okay, right? All that junk, right? But my contract has no junk. And I love everything about my contract, my offer, except for that number. Got it? They love everything about my offer except that number. What do you think they will probably do, the seller? What do you think they'll probably do? If I have the cleanest contract with the lowest offer, what do you think they'll do? Put it in the chat box, please. Yeah, they'll counter. They'll ask me to raise the price. They can't raise the price. They'll ask me. They'll ask for a higher offer. In other words, they'll ask me for a highest and best. And at that point in time, that will be communicated from their agent to my agent. And my agent will call me. And my agent will say, good news. They liked your offer except for the price. They're looking for a higher price. And I negotiated 72 hours for you to go out and take a look. Give me back a new number in 72 hours. Give me, if it's Friday, call me back on Monday with your new number. Okay? Everybody see how that works? So now I go out there with my contractor and I go through with a fine-tooth comb. If I have been at this business for more than a week or two, I'm probably already starting to put together a buyer's list and probably have some indication as to who's interested in Capitol Heights. So I get on the phone. Hey, looks like we're going to be wrapping up a deal. Calling you first because you've been very helpful to me. You've given me a lot of numbers. You let me borrow your contractor. Tell me what you think about a 3-bedroom house, Capitol Heights, and I'll have a better idea of how much work it needs. Generally speaking, what do you think you'd be willing to pay? They say Capitol Heights is on fire, absolutely on fire. I'll pay you $100,000 for that house. If it's really, really good, I'll pay you $105,000. Can you raise your offer? If you know you got a buyer ready to go, can you raise your offer? In which case, quite frankly, who gives a hoot about the maximum allowable offer? At the point in time you got the property locked up, you can negotiate whatever you want. You can negotiate an extension of the contract. You can negotiate what you sell to the end user buyer. If you find something seriously wrong with the property that you didn't see before, you can probably negotiate a lower price. But do you guys understand how many options you potentially have once you have the property under contract and how many options you don't have when you don't have the property under contract? So spending a lot of time, energy, and money basically massaging a turd. I can't believe I said that. What a grotesque thing to say, right? Until you got it under contract, stop getting all wrapped around the axle of paralysis of analysis. Oh, I got to add my profit in. Oh, what if the contractor says that it might be $55,000, not $50,000? Oh, I didn't actually have a real comp. Oh my God. How many more excuses are you going to make not to do this business? Who here wants to do the business? Who here wants to make a bunch of excuses as to why it can't be done? Hello, 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 right? So maximum allowable offer is just what you put out in the street when you don't have a buyer. Once you start building a buyer's list, it almost doesn't matter. But you got to start somewhere. You got to start with something. Now, do you remember what I said the comps might be in the neighborhood? 185, 195, 205. What would happen if we used the highest number to begin with? 205. 205. 205 times 0.75 is what? 205 times 0.75 is what? Please put it in the chat box. 205 times 0.75. Okay, 153. Everybody see that? 153, 750. Okay. So if you offered If you had 153,750 and you subtracted out 50,000, then your maximum allowable offer would be 103. Your maximum allowable offer would be 103. And it's quite possible with a squeaky clean contract, no friction, and a $103,000 offer, that seller may very well take your offer without any conversation whatsoever. Done. And you put it under contract, and then you get on the phone with your buyers. And your buyer says, "Oh, Capitol Heights, I love me some Capitol Heights. I'll do, anything Capitol Heights is good." You say, "Okay, well, what do you pay me? 100,000. Oh, well, I have it under contract for 105. All right, well, I'll take it at 105. No. If I have to sell it to you for 105, I don't make any money. Well, dude, you got to do a better job with your numbers. But at 88, and they'll pay you 100. That looks to me like you're booking what, a $12,000 wholesale fee, wholesale profit. Excuse me, I need to stop saying fee. Wholesale profit. We buy on the low, we sell on the high. Trust me, everybody's doing some variation of this Mayo formula on the back of a napkin. But you don't have to really worry about tightening the screws on your number until you have the property under contract. Okay? Does everybody see how that works? So who asked me if I'd go through the Mayo formula? Who asked me to do that? Does this help actually walking through it like this? Is this helpful? There's so many comments in the comment box, I can't. Okay, cool. Got it. Yes, it helped. Thank you. Helps a lot. Okay, cool. Great. All right, so does everybody see this? Okay, so maximum allowable formula, Mayo formula, fair market after repair value. Anytime I pull comps, I'm going to come up with a range of numbers. Houses do not all sell for the same number. It's not like buying a bag of M&Ms out of the vending machine, right? Everything's not $1.50 in the vending machine. Houses, each one's unique. They will be comparable because they're all in the same neighborhood, but they'll be a 15 to 20% range, more or less, in the values. So we buy on the low, we use the low number for our competition to buy, and when the time comes to resell it to somebody else, we use the high. What if I get on the phone with that I get on the phone with that buyer, and he says, "I'll give you 100,000," and you say, "Well, houses in Capitol Heights are going for 205,000. If I just simply do the Mayo formula, this house is worth 105 all day long." The guy would be like, "Yeah, you look smarter. You're smarter than you look." Yeah, okay, fine. We buy on the low, we sell on the high. Any questions on that? We buy on the low. Type that in the chat box for me. We buy on the low, we sell on the high. Buy on the low. In other words, if there's a range of numbers, we use the lowest number for our Mayo calculation in our initial offer. And then once we get it under contract, we attempt to resell it to a buyer using the higher number. Okay? All right. And it's not uncommon to see a $10,000 difference between the high and the low, which is exactly why I'm telling you guys, you don't need to put all those additional numbers in your Mayo formula. It just junks it up. At the end of the day, there's always, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 difference between the high and the low in just about any neighborhood. Buy on the low, sell on the high. Book your profit. Okay? Keep it simple, Sherman. Keep it simple. All right, next. Let's talk about red light, green light, yellow light. So, when we put properties under contract, we are going to exit the deal. And the exiting of the deal is what's known as an exit strategy. Okay? Generally speaking, there are 3 exit strategies for single family houses. Okay? Generally speaking, there's 3 exit strategies. Exit strategy number 1, wholesale the deal, make a wholesale profit. Exit strategy number 2, buy the deal yourself at the number you're looking at, rehab it, and resell it at a profit. Exit strategy number 3, buy the property at the number you're looking at, rehab it, rent it, rent it, and make a pretty decent income, minimum 500, but I like to be closer to the $1,000 price point, $1,000 a month profit, excuse me. If you have 3 viable strategies when you're going after a deal, you have 3 exit strategies, you have a green light. If you have 2 viable exit strategies, you have a yellow light. And if there's only one way to make money in that deal, exiting one way, you have a red light. And as we said yesterday, when you're driving your car and you come to an intersection and the light is red, you stop. When you're driving your car and you come to an intersection and the light is yellow, like most people, you proceed with caution. And if you're coming to an exit to an intersection and you're driving your car and the light is green, you go. Because if you stop, somebody's going to plow right over you. Does everybody understand that? If you understand that, give me a thumbs up. Or say, yes, I understand in the chat box. Now, how do you determine whether or not you have one or more exit strategies? Again, this is what your Diamond member coach is going to help you figure out. When you first get started in this business, you probably don't have a clue. You don't even know what an exit strategy is. Today may be the first day you've even heard the word exit strategy. Understood. This is why we have for our members something called the Deal Maker Workshop every Tuesday. So that Jessica can work with you and help you understand how to formulate an exit strategy. But generally speaking, when you're talking about single family houses, residential single family houses, there are 3 exit strategies that you potentially face if you're buying these properties using the formula, using the methodology that I've given you over the past 2 weeks. Meaning going after deals in the MLS and using that Mayo formula. If you're using the Mayo formula, you should be able to buy houses at a number that gives you 3 exit strategies. If you have to buy that property because you get into a bidding war and you're having to buy it on the high number, right? Instead of using 185, using 205, right? And therefore you don't have a viable strategy for wholesaling that house to another investor because your number's too high, but you could potentially still make money as a rehab, buy, fix, and flip, potentially make money as a rental, then you got 2 exit strategies. And it might make sense to go forward and do the deal. And maybe that's the first deal you do as a rental property. Because as a rental property makes sense, whereas a wholesale deal, it doesn't, okay? But the bottom line is this. If you only have 1 exit strategy, consider that a red light, don't do the deal. If you have 3 exit strategies, consider that a green light, do the deal, even if you're scared, especially if you're scared. And if you only have 2 exit strategies, proceed, but proceed with caution. Have those deep conversations with your Diamond coach and say, hey, what am I missing here? Is there something I should be doing different? Maybe I should bring in another contractor, get a second contractor's opinion. And if that second contractor says he can do it cheaper and that second contractor has a good reputation, maybe hire him to do it, right? There's all kinds of ways you can renegotiate here and there, whether you're renegotiating with the seller, renegotiating with your end user buyer, renegotiating with the hard money lender, or renegotiating with your contractor. There's all kinds of ways you can push some things around to turn a deal that only has 2 exit strategies into one that has 3. But the main thing is, if you know you only have 2, proceed, but proceed with caution. Any questions on that? Any questions on that? Guys getting that? You understanding it? Give me a thumbs up if you're getting it. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. So last call on this issue of exit strategies. And by the way, when we get all this stuff into REIU, which we're going to do, there's actually a tool inside REIU where all you have to do is plug in some inputs like what's the ARV, what's the contractor saying, what's the interest rate on your hard money loan, and and what's your contract price. And it will tell you whether or not it's a red light, yellow light, green light, and it'll tell you why. So if it's a red light, it'll tell you this is too high, this isn't going to work, blah, blah, blah. And you can play around with it, play around with the tool online to see where you need to renegotiate the deal. If it's a yellow light, it'll tell you, okay, you got this and this, but you're missing this. See if you can change this. And if it's green light, it's going to tell you close the computer and go do the deal. Okay. Now, here's the deal. Exit strategies. And when we start doing this kind of analysis, this is after we got the property tied up. Do not get bogged down with paralysis of analysis. Do not be doing deal exit strategy analysis on the offers. Don't do that. I mean, if it's just an offer, you don't even know if you got a deal yet. Why waste your time on going through this analysis on all 5 of your offers you're going to send out? Just use the Mayo formula, get the darn thing out the door, do some follow-up, and give your diamond member coach a decent opportunity to negotiate a deal on your behalf. And then once you do have highest and best or best and final, and once you are in negotiations, or better yet, when you actually have a contract on the property, then do this. Because if you have your one and only weasel clause in your contract and it turns out to be a red light, you can always submit a letter or try to renegotiate and walk away. But it doesn't make any sense to get all wrapped around the axle on your deal analysis until you have the property tied up. That's going back to the very first week when we talked about the 7 steps to deal making. Everybody remember the 7 steps to deal making? And somewhere in there, number 2, number 3 was it generate leads, have a tool for doing some kind of analysis, tie the property up, then get your team involved, okay? When we're going after MLS deals, do not spend a lot of time doing analysis. Just use the Mayo formula. And once you have it tied up, then do all your analysis, okay? All right, any questions? Any questions on that? If you're not into rehabbing, could the third strategy be either selling to a rehabber or selling to assisted living? So when I say 3 exit strategies, one of those 3 exit strategies is going to be selling to a rehabber. That's called wholesaling. So your 3 exit strategies are wholesale the deal to a rehabber, rehab it yourself and fix it and flip it, or rehab it and resell it, rehab it and turn it into a rental. Those are your 3 exit strategies. As far as assisted living is concerned, I would make sure you're working with somebody who's in that business before you go down the path of buying a house thinking you're going to rent it to an assisted living operator, or thinking you're going to sell it to an assisted living operator, only to find out that the house doesn't really qualify as an assisted living property. There's certain things that assisted living folks want to see, and if your property doesn't have those things, they're not even going to be interested in it. And certain neighborhoods they're going to want to see, because the amount of money that they can charge, generally speaking, is tied to the zip code. I can get a whole lot more money as an assisted living facility, a whole lot more as an assisted living facility in Mitchellville versus Capitol Heights. A whole lot more money, a whole lot more money. So you may have a delightful house in Capitol Heights, but if I don't think I'm going to get the numbers I need, I may pass on it as an assisted living operator. And there you are, get a house all tied up, think it's going to be an assisted living property, and it's not. You can shoot for the fences and shoot for the trees later. Right now, just do what Sherman says. And I would not be going after properties thinking one of my exit strategies is assisted living. You got to know a whole lot more about that business and be in partnership, generically speaking, with somebody who knows that business before you make that your core strategy. And you're certainly not going to make that happen in 21 days. Again, this whole class is about getting that first deal done in 21 days. Cracking through, breaking through, so we can go on and do some other things. As you get more experience under your belt, as you begin to network and get to know some assisted living operators, and they say to you, hey, there's definitely a need in this zip code, this neighborhood. If you find some stuff, let me know, because I'll pay you a higher finder's fee or a higher profit. Then by all means, go after assisted living. But I would not start there. You start there, you're going to wind up having a whole lot of tears. Because there's a lot of stuff you need to know to turn a property into assisted living, okay? Now, good news is Real Investors has an assisted living team. And if you want to learn about that business, and I'll talk about that more towards the end of this week when I start talking about what's next after we get through the lessons and start putting this stuff on autopilot, then yeah, join the assisted living team, get to know them, and be a deal maker, be a bird dogger or wholesaler just for them. Absolutely. Good strategy. But we don't start there. All right, any other questions about red light, yellow light, green light, and the 3 exit strategies? If you get where I'm coming from, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Okay. Some of y'all looking a little bored. You're like, Sherman, this is like the 3rd day, the umpteenth time. I got it. All right, let's move on. Thank you, Robert. So we got a really special guest today. Really special. I'm calling our guest for today, Mr. X. And the reason why it's Mr. X is because many years ago, he was the #2 person on one of the top producing real estate teams in the entire DC metro area. And he was working for the #1 real estate brokerage firm in the nation, on #2 person on this top tier team, really living the matrix life. And somebody came along and said, red pill or blue pill, and he snatched the red pill and got himself out of the matrix and joined us in the world of investors. And for the past several years, he's now been a top producing agent inside the world of investing, as well as being an investor doing a lot of creative deal making as well as traditional deal making himself. And I just thought you guys would have a real treat being able to ask him some questions about this world of traditional real estate and why traditional real estate agents do things a certain way, and why we as investors who are looking to hack the matrix really need to, follow what's in the 21-day program versus what a traditional real estate agent might do. So our very special guest, Mr. X, formerly a part of the Matrix, now a Matrix hacker and Matrix hacking guide who takes other investors and helps them navigate the process. Can we give it up for the one, the only, Mr. Jesse Marks? How you doing, Jesse?
Hey, Sherman, how you doing? I'm doing great.
Good.
How's everyone?
Like, we didn't see that coming.
Oh, yes. I was unplugged from the Matrix.
Hey, I think a lot of people know you from Real Investors, but they don't necessarily know your background.
Right.
So why don't you take a couple of minutes and just sort of talk to us about, what was your world before real estate? And then, what attracted you to real estate, and why, why KW, the #1 franchise, the #1 largest real estate broker in America, and sort of what was your experience when you were at KW doing traditional, and then, transition us into why Real Investors, and, and as a part of that, sort of then tell us sort of what are some of the things that new investors need to know when it comes to hacking the matrix. So tell us,
right.
What were you doing before real estate?
Well, before real estate, I was a law enforcement officer with DC Housing Authority Police Department. For those that don't know,
that's one of those touchy-feely like counselor jobs.
Yeah, right. For those that don't know, most of the crime that takes place in the metropolitan area in Washington, D.C. takes place on housing property. So public housing is where probably about 70% of the crime in D.C. takes place. So we were patrolling the public housing properties in D.C., which was very chaotic. I saw a lot of stuff that the average person probably wouldn't even think about dealing with or seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But, I started being disheartened. A lot of stuff was taking place. I just like now, I am still controversial. I was very controversial at the Housing Authority Police Department. As a matter of fact, to protect my job at the Housing Authority Police Department, I had to become an FOP, a union official. So I was the vice president of our union. Wow. And that protected my job because I had such a high position in the union. I could say a lot of stuff to speak my mind. And, I was fairly well protected. So, for those that know what I mean when I say speak my mind, I speak my mind, So, but at any rate, I did get disheartened because I don't care what we did, yeah. Crime never stopped. It never slowed down. It just kept going and going. And I knew that if I didn't get out of there, I would probably do something dreadful. And I really wasn't willing to do that. So I got out. Thankfully, when I got out, I did have some problems. I had been studying and dilly-dallying in real estate, here and there, like most people. I got started in real estate in '78.
Okay.
Wow. Back when I was still in just out of high school, getting ready to go into the military. I bought up my first property, and you know, when I went into the military, I came back out of the military in '88, had a couple more properties. So I had about 4 properties when I decided to leave the Housing Authority Police Department.
Gotcha.
So what I did, didn't think about it, I just sold them. Had a nice chunk of cash, and I thought, man, I'm gonna live the life. Well, you know, I found out very quickly how cash can disappear in 6 months if you're not doing anything else to regenerate it.
I thought it was just me, man. I just
No,
I
thought I was on vacation, you know. I left them, and I thought, hey man, I got all this cash, I can chill for a while. You quickly burn through that cash, you know, and you know, ladies know, you know, I'm a married man. Men, if you don't know, ladies, you know, my wife kind of touched me on my shoulder and said, hey, you know, you better start doing something.
Yes.
And at that point, you know, I started thinking about real estate because I had sold the property. So I figured real estate could help me generate some money. I didn't know anything about real estate other than what I still had dibbled in. Okay. You know, I did have one of the courses from, you know, the No Money Down guy back in the early 70s.
If you're talking 70s.
You know it. That was the first course I bought. Yeah, that was the first course I bought, and I had a whole bunch of courses. So I figured, hey, I'll get into real estate. After I decided to get into real estate full time, I realized quickly I don't know a thing.
Okay.
So I decided, hey, what better time to get licensed? Got licensed and realized this did not help.
So what did you think the license was going to do?
I don't know. Yeah. I thought somehow magically, if I got licensed and learned from the state sanctioned court,
yes,
that I would learn about real estate.
Yeah.
Big mistake. Yeah,
the state wants you rich.
Big mistake. Only thing I was doing was paying money to the state and to these various agencies to keep my license. So I at that time I had actually affiliated with a broker, again, you know, locally right here, and realized, okay, I've got to do something. So I've always been dibble-dabbling in real estate. So I went to a seminar, and at this seminar, I met a young lady who was a local real estate agent. She had one of the top teams, but she was not affiliated with my brokerage.
Okay.
So at the time, I just started hanging around her, literally.
Gotcha.
I met her at this conference. I told her, you don't know me, I don't know you, but you are going to ask me to join your team at some point in time.
Okay. Bold.
And I literally, don't do this, folks, because back in these days, stalking wasn't sort of I literally stalked her. I would show up at her office, before she opened, 2 or 3 hours before she opened, and literally sit out in the car, wait for her to come there and whatever she needed.
And she didn't shoot you?
Hey, she didn't shoot me. I was a nice guy. I would always smile. I would do whatever. I would hold the umbrella if it was raining. I would carry her bags. I would do whatever was necessary. I would pick her children up if she needed somebody to pick her children up. I did for about 3 weeks. I did whatever it took.
Wow.
During that 3rd week, she now started transitioning her office. So now she had joined the brokerage that I was with, and she was transitioning her office. So her office was going from one place to another. And I volunteered. I asked her, I said, well, look, let me do this. I will help you. I will actually lay out the foundation for your office. Mm-hmm. I will put the plans in place. I will hire the contractors. All you have to do is approve it and pay for it. I will do it all. You don't have to do anything. And I was absolutely shocked. She agreed to it. But by this time, it was almost 3 weeks. By this time, I had been around her, and she realized that, hey, this guy, he's just, he's like that. He can do almost anything if he puts his mind to it. So she said, yeah, I'll give you an opportunity. Okay. And I did. I found a architect. We put together some plans. I went to Home Depot, got some contractors. Man, boom. 2.5 weeks after I put the plans in her hands, and she had paid for the deposit and everything, the office was almost prepared and ready.
Wow.
And about a week after that, so now we're 3.5 weeks beyond when I actually started. So now we're almost a month and a half from the time I actually started hanging with her. Now, keep in mind, I wasn't getting paid for nothing I was doing.
Paying your dues.
Wasn't getting paid for nothing. But
Wow.
she asked me, as soon as once the office was completed, she asked me to join her team.
Excellent.
Yep.
That's a good story. We gotta give it up for Jesse. That's a good story.
So now I am on one of the top producing teams in the area, and now she's with my broker. So now I know I can learn.
Okay.
So now I'm learning this process.
Wait. So you telling me that your broker wasn't teaching you what you needed to know about being an investor?
What my broker wasn't even teaching me what I needed to know about being an agent.
Well, we laugh, but it's true. I mean, when I got my license back in 1983, and Bob Burns said, the Real Estate Commission has one attitude, which is one gun pointed at one head. Brokers back then managed the office, managed the agents.
Right.
And it just seems something happened over the intervening years where you got brokers competing with their agents. And it's almost like you got your license at a brokerage firm, but you are truly independent to go get your own training, go get your own education.
Right.
If you want to progress as even as a traditional real estate agent, much less progress as an investor.
Well, the great thing about that brokerage is if you wanted to be an agent, there was a lot of training. My problem is I never wanted to be an agent. And even though I attended some of the training, I'm not geared to be an agent. For those of you that know me, and don't get me wrong, folks, some of you might take this wrong. To be an agent, you have to like people. I don't necessarily like people. not to the extent that I really want to be around people in that sort of atmosphere.
So you mean
therefore,
let's get some clarification here. You mean in a traditional agent setting where you're putting people in the car, driving around,
putting people in the car, taking them out,
sending them fruit cake on the holidays and little
absolutely
notes. That's not you.
Right.
No?
That's not me. I found out very quickly after I got licensed and joined the brokerage. First thing the broker said, well, for you to get clients, you're going to have to man the phones. So you man the phone a couple of times, you get a couple of clients, you take clients out, and these clients now you spend 3-4 hours a day for a week taking them out, looking at properties, and all of a sudden they say, well, I changed my mind.
Got it. That's the part you
really? Right. Really? I spent all this time with you and then you changed your mind,
Got it.
That didn't sit well with me. So, I realized right off very quickly that I did not want to be a traditional agent.
Okay.
So I started looking for other options. Well, again, now once I got with this team, the team lead agent, well, she was working investor deals. So I got a chance to look at some deals, watch her do some things. I started picking up stuff real quick.
Okay.
So boom, I started doing deals. She asked me to actually manage the team at some point. So I started really getting involved in deals. I literally got my hand in almost every deal that the team did. The team did well over 300 deals. And I was involved in some manner, either as the transaction manager, managing an entire transaction, as a lead agent, as a cash money investor or private lender or whatever. I got involved in them. So I really started learning, and then I wanted to start doing something outside of the box.
So it sounds to me like even though you didn't want to be a traditional agent servicing clients and driving around in your station wagon to go look at houses and feeding the kids ice cream cones in the back seat, you got a chance to see enough of what other people, look over the shoulder of other people on the team, that you got a pretty good education on how the business works.
Oh, absolutely. And not only that, I started to realize something very unique.
Yeah.
is that the better you are at doing what you do as an investor, the easier it is to be an agent to investors.
Got it.
You know, because investors want to learn and know what it is you're doing as an investor.
Okay.
But you know, that sort of got hindered, to be nice.
Okay.
At one point, my broker, the broker kind of pulled me in the office and said, well, you know, you did a couple of deals that we really don't think you should be doing. And I'm talking about creative financing.
Okay.
You know, so I did a couple of creative financing deals. The broker got, you know, wind of it somehow. Not that I was trying to hide it from him.
Right.
I guess the broker wasn't involved because it was me and the seller.
Right.
But the broker got wind of it, and the broker called me in the office and said, you know, we don't think you should be doing these type of deals because it could, you know, sort of backfire.
Right.
It could put you and the brokerage in jeopardy. And I understood her position because in that office, we had well over 300 agents at the time. So I understood her position, but it hindered me. I started having to do just more traditional real estate as well as more traditional investor type deals.
Right.
But my mindset was always, you know, creative financing, seller financing options and whatever I could do, but just couldn't do that. Yeah, I was not able to do that at that brokerage. You know, so one of the things that really made me feel a little bit better is somewhere around my third, maybe fourth year with the brokerage, the broker decided, hey, we're going to start an investment team.
Okay.
So they got a group of agents, myself included. It was about 20, maybe 25 of us to get started. Eventually, we ended up getting somewhere around 40 agents altogether over the course of this year that we were in this group. Okay. You know, and it really wasn't a team. It was really just an investment group. We all put money in. We all put about, you know, 7,500 in. Some people put a little bit more, but we all put and so we had some money in that deal. And during the 3.5, almost 4 years that we were a investment group, we did no deals. So while I was excited,
so you had the money, but you didn't have the knowledge.
While I was excited, we had some knowledge now. At this time, I had some knowledge in doing some deals. Right. I was still a novice, but I had some knowledge. I had done several deals.
Yeah, if you had, if you had 40 people with about 7,500 more or less a piece, you should have had somewhere close to, you know, $350,000, $400,000.
We had a good chunk of money. We looked
at several. You could have bought one house all cash for that.
We looked at several deals and could not pull the trigger. Wow. I myself bought 3 deals to the team, to the group, of which all of them were shot down because, hey, Jesse, you're new at this. You don't know what you're doing.
Wow. Wow.
I then went to my team leader.
Okay.
She loaned me the money on one deal.
Okay.
So I completed one deal successfully, went back to the team and said, hey, you know, I should say went back to the group and said, hey, I did a deal. I got another one. Right. They shot it down. I went to my mom that time. Yeah. My mom said, you guys, you know, right? Ladies, y'all might not know, but guys, you know, mom always think we her baby. Mom said, baby, don't worry about it. I got you. So my mom funded that deal. That deal was successful. Wow. You know, wow. My mom and I made about almost $120,000 on that. Sweet. You know, she got her money back. I didn't put any money in the deal, but I still made a profit on that. You know, it was, hey, fantastic. Nice. Nice. So by the time I went with the third deal, I thought the group would say, hey, you know, you got 2 successful deals. Yeah, anything you bring us, we're going to look at. Third deal, nope. They still shot it down. So by that time, I was done. Got you know, I left the group, and shortly after that, the entire group disbanded. Everybody's money was returned to them. Not one deal was pulled.
Wow.
I mean, the trigger was not pulled on one deal. So it was very disheartening. And around that time, I really, if it were not for my team leader, I probably would have left that brokerage. But she was doing deals, so I still had the ability to do some things.
Gotcha.
But I was looking very hard, very carefully, attempting to find something, anything that can put me in sort of that place that I wanted to be. For some of you, you know, my wife has a catering company, a Touch of Class Caterer. So it just so happened that she catered an event at the Bowie Library.
Wow.
For a group I had never heard of. But she came back that night after her event ended and said, Jesse, you need to talk to this guy and look at these folks at what they're doing, because it sounds like they are doing exactly what you want to do. And she just happened, because she was catering, she sat in on the event. So
Gotcha.
she heard what they were doing.
Gotcha.
You know? So naturally, I went to check out the group. About a week later, I was invited back. I went to check out the group. They had some event that night. I went to check it out a couple of nights, and then was invited back by the gentleman that was holding that event. So I came back about a week later, sat in on an event called the Deal Makers Workshop, signed up, and been running hard ever since.
There you go. Been a real investor ever since.
real investor ever since. And I'm going to tell you what really amazed me is that as soon as I came here, I realized where my issue was. The issue with the broker, because I was using my name, I was putting, again, myself and the broker at risk. I came here and realized something I had never heard before, and many of you probably have never heard. I needed to clone myself. At the time, it wasn't talked about cloning. It was just talking about using an LLC. But in essence, you're cloning yourself because the LLC now takes all of the risk.
Right.
And that was by far the best strategy I had ever heard. And I mean, it has allowed me to just unleash my creativity.
Somebody said Jesse had an aha moment. Let me tell you something. Jesse,
you're absolutely right. I did.
I was going to say, Jesse and I have aha moments every day, every time we talk to each other. Y'all think
all
that
the time
we know everything. And it's not that we know everything. It's just that we're just a couple of steps ahead of everybody else. But even we have aha moments. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's cool. That's a cool story. And you've been at Real Investors, what, 8 years, 7, 8 years? Oh my gosh.
I've been at Real Investors since 2011.
Wow. Time flies.
11 years, folks.
Time flies.
Well, I should say 10 years, 10 years. Because it was late 2010, but early 2011. But yes, I've been here 10 years. It's been an amazing journey too. Watching people grasp this concept and to be able to run with it.
Well, there's really, I mean, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back, but there's nothing else like it. I mean, you went down the path. You went down the path of going to the top real estate brokerage company in America, and had to realize at the top real estate that the top real estate brokerage in America was some of the top real estate agents in the country pooling their money, and for 3 years still couldn't get an investment deal done.
Right.
I mean, that in and of itself speaks volumes. That is how much people who are in the matrix don't really see the opportunity that we're here to hack the matrix see, but they don't see it. They don't see it.
Yeah, it is amazing. It is absolutely amazing to, and you start to hear things. Agents, there are agents in this business that don't even own a house.
I know.
That's like I'm selling. I'm selling Cadillacs and driving a Subaru.
Right.
And I'm gonna tell you the benefits of a Cadillac, but I don't even drive one.
It's like you're selling Cadillacs, but you take Uber. Or Stuber. So yeah, it is amazing, and that was funny. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that because even I mean, something like less than half of real estate agents actually own their own home. It's like if you're an agent and you know this stuff, why don't you just go buy your own house and stop paying rent?
Yeah, that sounds like it should be the
crazy.
first thing in your mind.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. I mean, I did you guys know I did a bunch of TV interviews a few years ago. I wrote a book called 7 Simple Steps to Getting Your Own Home, and in fact, Stephanie gives it out at her first time home buyer seminars. And I had to do a little research to put that book together. You guys understand that people who own their own home are 36 times richer than people who rent? 36 times richer. I mean, if anybody's talking about doing real estate investing, the first deal's got to be your own house. Got to be. So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Amen. So, Jesse, what do you think people really need to know about, number one, why this technique that we teach and have been teaching for the past couple of weeks actually does work? And number two, why picking the right real estate agent, without, naming you, me specifically, but, just in general, because a lot of people have this perception that all real estate agents are the same. You got a license, he got a license, she got a license. Well, don't you all know the same thing? I mean, you've been an insider. You know what they know.
Right. Well, the right real estate agent, just like the right hard money lender, will really help you to make money. Because the right real estate agent is that agent that is doing the same thing that you're doing. Understand this. If an agent is not doing what you are doing and that does not know what it is that you are doing, you will have to train that agent to do what you want them to do. That means you're training yourself and your agent. That you want to talk about, going to somebody, somebody always talk about, that analogy, going to the doctor, have a heart, whatever. And now you got to teach your doctor about hearts in order for them to work, to operate on your heart. Yeah.
Well, I think the Bible talks about blind leading blind, and we know where they wind up, right? When the blind lead the blind.
Absolutely.
Only one place you can wind up.
Right.
In the ditch.
And one of the things I heard you talking about the other day, and somebody mentioned the advance fee. I've heard a lot of people. Right now I've got a lot of clients.
Yes.
That ask about that, whether they are investor clients or whether they are traditional clients. Everybody, well, Jesse, why do you charge $500 advance fee? Nobody else charges that. Well, look, first of all, I know what I'm worth. Mm-hmm. My question is, why don't other agents charge an advance fee? They obviously might not know what they're worth. I know how much work it takes. I know what I'm worth. I've had people that say, well, Jesse, the traditional real estate agent, whatever the listing agent charges, or whatever the listing agent splits, that's usually all they take. Well, again, I know what I'm worth. Mm-hmm. I know how much work I'm going to do for my clients. Mm-hmm. I know that no matter what, I'm going to do that work. Mm-hmm. See, I've had clients that, yes, that I have not been able to charge my entire, commission.
Right.
The commission that real investors get, we have not been able to charge the entire commission for whatever reason. Sometimes it's because it's the VA. The VA does not allow us to charge our traditional commission. The VA only allows a certain amount, but I still have to do the same amount of work, and I do that same amount of work. What you're going to find about our agents, Kevin, Martinez, Stephanie, you name them, that we're going to do that same amount of work. Now, think about this. If you went to work every day and did the same amount of work every day, but then one week you come to work and your employer says, well, we're going to cut your salary. We know you're doing the same amount of work, but we're going to only pay you, 60% of what you normally pay. That's what you're asking some of the hardest working people to do. what you should, go ahead.
Well, let's talk a little bit about why, why go with an investor agent, why go with the Real Investors Diamond Code versus just, I told my mom that I'm doing real estate investing, and she reminded me that my cousin Sadie at the family reunion was studying to get her real estate license. Why can't I just use my cousin Sadie?
Oh yeah, cousin Sadie.
why do I need somebody who's like a specialist in this thing? Why can't I just get cousin Sadie just to like pick up the slack?
Yeah, well, you love cousin Sadie, but the first thing that cousin Sadie gonna do when one of these, listing agents calls her up and says, "What the heck is wrong with you?" And they're not gonna use the word heck. I use that because we're on a Zoom. You sending me this lowball offer? Get the hell, blah blah. Cousin Sadie gonna run off in the corner and cry, and then she's gonna call you back and say, "I'm not sending out no more offers for you."
True.
Look, you have got to feed off of the energy that these agents put into when they receive offers. They act as if these offers are personal. Well, you have to know that. And as an agent, as a real investor agent, most of us know that. Most of us are not only used to dealing with this, like I said, we feed off that energy. That's part of the energy that we use when it comes down to now renegotiating that deal with that same agent.
Yeah, some reason this business type attracts a lot of type A personalities.
Yes.
And it's just like everything, it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. And I'm not on the front line like you and Stephanie, and everybody sort of has their own way of dealing with it. Like you deal with it one way, Stephanie deals with another way. Starting to see how Kevin deals with another way. And Martinez Martinez tearing it up. So she must have her
absolutely,
although I don't know exactly what it is yet. But the bottom line is these agents out there who are listing agents, they act like it's their property. They act like it's their mother's property, and you have insulted them.
Absolutely.
Because you dare to submit an offer that was $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 below everything else they've seen. And the funniest thing is they call you up, they curse you out, they make you feel like a turd. There I go using that word again. And then after the deal closes, they act like they're your new best friend. That's crazy. It's like, are you psychotic? What was the name of that movie? Sybil with the multiple personalities. I swear to God, some of these listing agents have got like multiple personalities. I know one particular agent who calls Stephanie all the time, right? Because Stephanie and I talk, like you and I talk. He calls Stephanie all the time and says, "Hey, listen, I got this new listing, and I know nobody else is going to want it but you." And then
I get those.
Later, and then a week later, she calls Stephanie back. "What are you doing? It's Lowball."
I get those calls all the time, or those emails all the time. And as soon as I send them an offer, they say, "What? I didn't know you were going to send me a low offer. I thought you were going to give us what we want." Really? Why would you think that? We're going to evaluate the deal based upon what we believe it's worth.
Yeah.
Not based upon what you want. But, like you said, lots of agents, they get in this business and they take this very personal. And I'm not quite certain why. This is it is what it is. And that is something that you as investors need to understand so that you don't take it personally when a seller or an agent, throws you out of the house.
Yeah.
Screams at you.
Again, I was only being somewhat facetious, but this business attracts a lot of strong personalities. And they're like most of the top producers are type A, got skin like crocodiles, and they don't think a second thing to curse out the person who's putting lowball off, quote unquote lowball offer, which is again why we started this class talking about what the law says, because every once in a while you got to remind them, hey, there's no such thing in the law as a lowball offer. It's just an offer.
Right.
And then get that thing back on track.
I love it when an agent calls me up, especially if I have them on the phone and they talk about, well, your lowball offer. Define that for me. What is a lowball offer? It is an offer.
Right. It's a written offer, like the law says.
Written offer. and during the whole conversation, I'm usually just waiting for my time to say, have you presented it yet? That's it. That's all I want to know. Have you presented it yet? All all the other stuff, I don't care. Half the time I move the phone away from my ear so he's not cursing all in my ear, screaming all in my ear. And then when I hear quiet, have you presented it yet?
Yeah.
I have even had one agent that said that they were not going to present the offer.
They told you that.
Told me that. And I had to go back and ask him, would you please repeat that? And when I asked him to repeat it, he changed what I meant to say was. Okay. I just wanted to make certain that I heard, but he clarified that really quickly.
Cleaned it up.
Because all offers have to be presented, Yeah. And that's the great thing about where we are with the 21-day course. Hacking this thing makes it much easier for us because regardless of what an agent thinks about our offer, it's still got to be presented. It's up to the seller to decide whether or not. And you know what? Most of us as investors, and again, don't take this personal, most of us as investors get our feelings hurt because our first offer was rejected rather than waiting another 30 days or so and making another offer. My offers get a little bit lower each time. So I'll knock $500 off, $1,000 off, and the agent will call me back and say, didn't we just reject this offer? No, it's a different offer. It's lower this time.
You know what you're reminding me of, listening to you speak, Jesse? You're reminding me of Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. And you remember the speech he gave on the witness stand?
Right.
You need me on that wall.
You need me on that wall. Right.
And
right.
What a lot of folks, especially new investors, don't understand is how rough and tumble that negotiation is with the
Absolutely.
listeners. I mean, it is as close as you can get to hand-to-hand combat with nobody physically getting hurt. I mean,
absolutely.
Because you got type A personalities, you got agents who, for whatever reason, take this thing so personally, not understanding, hey, you're a hired bird dog. You're hired to put a buyer and seller together. And you have no clue what happened to your seller at 10 o'clock this morning when they found out that they lost their job, the IRS is coming after them for $50,000 in past due taxes,
right?
And their wife just left with their truck and the dog, right? And on that day, the offer they would have rejected yesterday, they'll take in a flash today. Agents don't understand that people's
it's a perfect offer for them now, right? Right.
Right. And they want to go to war over your quote unquote lowball offer, not realizing, hey,
right.
And, I tell the story and I cleaned it up a little bit, but I'm going to have to tell the full on story. So when I first got started in the business, I was so uncomfortable. I was really uncomfortable dealing with this environment because I had seen this environment, but I never had to deal with it day to day because when I had my license, I kind of sort of cherry picked what deals I went after, and I never really used my license in that way, even though I've been licensed for a long time. And so I had asked Gwen if she would be my agent.
Yeah, I remember her
because I wanted her making the phone calls, right? And she was at the time had her license with we didn't have a brokerage firm. I was an independent broker, had my own license, but no agents. And Gwen was working for again a traditional real estate brokerage shop, but her broker at the time, or her team leader at the time, was doing investing and allowed the people on his team to do investing. So Gwen and I met down at a real estate investor conference, and then we were sort of the first two people to form this club. And so she asked, are you in need of an agent? I said, well, I got my own license, but you know what? It probably would be better for you to represent me, even though I have my own license. And some of the conversations she would relay to me, I'm like, I am so glad I'm not on that other than that telephone. And then one time she called me, I swear to God, she called me in tears. I told you guys this, the vanilla version. I'm gonna tell you the full on version. She called me in tears, because a REO specialist, Faith Roselle, right? And everybody knows Faith. Wow. They've been around for a long time. Faith and Gladwin and a couple of us who really specialize. Faith called her up and just totally chewed her up and spit her out. And that was the day she wanted to quit real estate. I swear to God. She called me and she says, I'm not making any more offers for you. I'm done with this. I'm tired of being chewed up, spit out. And I said, what happened? And she said, that last offer you sent out, because Gwen and I had gotten into a relationship and a groove in terms of getting offers out the door, that she never looked at my offers anymore. I just wrote them up on my own.
Right.
I sent them out, and then I would send her the cover sheet so she knew what I was making offers on, but she didn't pay any attention to it. She was waiting for the highest and best phone call, right? So Faye gets a hold of this offer. It's a property that's in the MLS for, I believe it was 48. No, it was in the MLS for $87,000. And then they knocked it down to 60. And they were getting ready to knock it down to 47, but we didn't know that. So it was like $60,000, and we offered 12. 12. And because we did our analysis and based on the mail formula, that's what that was what. And Faye called her up and just literally gristmill, like putting your hand in a meat grinder, right? And Gwen called me out, and she was literally ready to not only quit the business, but she was basically calling me to tell me, stop sending offers out. We're done. You're done. Cut this off, because I don't need this kind of grief in my life, right? And I said to Gwen, I said, do me one favor. And she's like, I don't owe you any favors, right? I said, I've done you enough of a favor, right? I said, just do me one favor. She said, what's that? I said, I want you to call her back. She's like, I'm not calling her back. I'm like, just please, just do this. Call her back and ask her one question. And when you ask her the question, just be quiet. And she said, what's the one question? I said, what will they take? I said, can you do that for me? Will you call back? Like, because this was all very fresh. This had all happened within like 10 minutes when she's calling me up to tell me that Faith had chewed her out. So she called her back, and then she calls me back 2 minutes later. She says, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, what are you talking about? She says, they'll take $24,000 on a $60,000 listing. We closed the deal. That of course was 1503 Pacific Avenue. The house that I bought for $24,000, put like 7 into it. And that baby cash cowed for a couple years before the tenant moved out, and then I sold it. But at the end of the day, when I added it all up, I made about $120,000 on that deal. $120,000 on that deal, right? And that was also the deal, I believe, that restored Gwen's faith that, hey, you can't take this stuff personally. Now, here's the great irony. I did a deal with Faith directly about a year ago. And it was a deal where her seller was a horse's patoot. And it took like 8 months to close on what should have happened in about 2 weeks. And Faith and I had a chance to have a lot of conversations together, and I had a chance to really get to know her. And I kind of understand why Faith has this really tough skin, because she represents banks.
Right.
And banks are jerks. Banks and asset managers are jerks. They have no appreciation whatsoever for the art. So Faith has got a short fuse with the agents who she feels are wasting her time, because she's getting that kind of and it all just sort of trickles on down the line. And I'm telling you, if you're a first-time investor who's not prepared for this environment, it will chew you up, spit you out, and you'll quit and never do another thing and miss out on the golden triangle. And for me, if you know that that's not your personality type, then you want somebody on your team who's going to get in there and be like a barracuda, right? It's like turn loose the Kraken, just let him loose, right? Because in this world, in this business, you kind of need somebody who's ready to like put on the whole armor and take the shield and take the sword and just go to war for you. And it seems ridiculous that it shouldn't have to be that way, and yet it is that way. And then as you get stronger as an investor, and you kind of see the games getting played, okay, you know what? Maybe I can run in there on a couple of these deals and negotiate them for myself. But this world of real estate brokerage and residential real estate, it is way more rough and tumble than you're ever going to deal with FSBOs. You're not going to deal with this kind of stuff on FSBOs.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with agents, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So anyway, Jesse, I didn't mean to take up your time, but that was
that is that's a great opportunity in terms of us listening to that story, in terms of what we were just talking about running in the corner, hiding and crying.
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. When Gwen told me that 20 years ago, my very first deal, I would have thought that Faith had horns and fire coming out her nose, right? And then 20 years later, when I'm at a very different place as an investor and I have an opportunity to work with her, I'm like, I get the fact that she's tough as nails, but to a newer agent, to a rookie agent, she kind of comes across a little strong.
Very strong. And most REO agents do.
Yeah.
Most of them do. Matter of fact, most of them don't even take calls anymore. Most of them will not take calls, you know. But yeah, one of the things that, again, we had mentioned follow-up. So many people in this business make one offer, and then, you know, I sort of made the joke saying you run off in the corner, you know, crying because they rejected your first offer. Maybe not to that extent, but you don't follow up with another offer simply because, you know, I don't know, you're embarrassed, your feelings are hurt. I don't know, but understand this: time changes all kinds of things.
Absolutely.
And there have been many times when we have made offers on a property only to come back. As a matter of fact, the largest wholesale deal that I have personally done took a year. It was, do you remember Anthony?
Absolutely.
That deal we did in DC.
What were they, Team 3 from the
Yeah, absolutely. Program? It was Apprentice Team. I think it was Apprentice Team 3, or it might have been 4. I don't know. It was one of the apprentice teams. We had a deal under contract. It was a short sale deal. After we had it under contract for about 3 months, the agent called and said, hey, the bank is going to reject the short sale. We're taking it off the market. Boom, you're done. I said, fine. If for whatever reason anything changes, please give me a call first. A year later, he called me and said, hey, remember that property? It was in Northwest on Irving Street. He said, remember that property on Irving Street? I said, yeah, what about it? He said, you think that your group is still interested? Well, my answer is always the same. Yes, absolutely. I had to call Team 3 and say, hey, look, guys, the deal is back on the table. They wholesale that deal for $38,000. Now,
their profit.
That was their profit, right? That was their wholesale profit. That team, $38,000. This was an MLS.
You can split 38,000 4 ways, real nice.
This was an MLS deal originally.
Yeah.
We got it at the very price that we originally asked for. They didn't change the price on us a year later. They didn't even ask us for more money. They said, we're going to give it to you at that price. Now,
I mean, I have seen over the years, and you have too, Jesse, I'm sure, so many different situations where if you tell somebody it happened, they'd be like, nah, you're lying.
Right.
You know, I had a property in Baltimore. It's worth that property today is worth $500,000. I bought a property in Baltimore for $78,000. I was a new investor, did something that you should never ever do. I met this guy at a Starbucks. A bird dog brought it to me. One of the members of our group brought it to me, and I met him, and he asked me to give him the earnest money deposit personally. First and last time I ever did that. You don't do that.
No,
never. And I gave him, I think it was $3,000 or $4,000. His name was Cashmere Luke. I'll never forget his name, Cashmere Luke. And I met him at the Starbucks in Columbia, Maryland. We signed the contract. I gave him the check, and then I never heard from him again. Never heard from him again. Turns out the guy was in bankruptcy. I was supposed to meet him at the bankruptcy court in Greenbelt, Maryland, to finalize the deal. I showed up, and he never showed up. So I asked the person behind the counter, excuse me, but I was supposed to meet somebody here. She's like, what's his name? I gave her the name. He goes, oh, yeah. He filed his bankruptcy court. The judge threw his case out because he was hiding assets. One of the assets he was hiding was the property I was buying from him. And the judge is threatening to throw him in jail unless he resubmits. And so I guess he got spooked and left. Long story short, I swear to goodness, I think the deal is lost. I go to my title company, I explain what I did. My title attorney's like, you stupid, you should have let me hold the money. Don't ever do that again. I had my lip poked out thinking I just lost, I guess $5,000, which I could not afford to lose as a new investor. And don't you know, it was almost a year and 6 months later, I get a phone call from the bankruptcy court from a guy who's the trustee saying, are you still interested in the property? And they honored the contract I had with Cashmere Luke, and they deducted $5,000 that I gave him.
Wow.
The purchase price.
There is a God. For everybody that is listening, in case you don't know, if ever a seller comes back to you after you submitted an offer to them and they ask you, are you still interested? The answer is always yes. Always yes.
And these guys, you were here yesterday. These guys heard the case with Jonathan Rutland yesterday.
Right.
And how Jonathan said he went after a short sale and the guy kept asking him for a certain amount of money. He just wouldn't give it to him. And then he got it under contract, turned it over to Lisa Wood to do the short sale. And it took almost 2 years. But in the meantime, values were rising. And he still closed at the original number.
Yes.
That's how he made $100 and some thousand on a rehab deal. I mean, it's just and I think the thing that throws a lot of people, especially newbies in this business, is they kind of expect this thing to work like going over to Nordstrom to buy a pair of shoes. Like, the shoes are here, here's my credit card. Oh, the shoes aren't here, we'll get them shipped over from another store. Okay. And everything's just sort of assembly line, chocolate cherry candy coming off an assembly line, right? And this business doesn't work that way. Sometimes this business is really, really lumpy. Sometimes it's a whole lot.
Most times it's lumpy. Most times it's lumpy. And the great thing about it being lumpy is that everybody cannot take the lumps. So that makes it for those of us that are willing to take the lumps, that are willing to take all this, that makes it easier for us to make money because we wait it out.
And that's also where consistency comes in.
Absolutely. And if you're one of those people, then guess what? You're going to make some money in this business.
Yeah. If you just get in the habit of sending out 5 offers a day and don't worry about it, sooner or later, your agent, your diamond coach, will call you up and say, hey, congratulations, we got highest and best. But if you're one of those people like, I'm gonna spend this whole weekend sending out 100 offers, and if I don't get a deal after sending out 100, I quit, you're gonna quit. A whole lot better do 5 a day and just go about your life and wait for the phone call than to go, okay, I'm gonna do 100 right now, and if I don't see something with 100 offers, I'm out of here. Well, you may not see something with 100 offers in one weekend, right? But if you put 5 out every day, at the end of the month, you have 100. You get 100 out there that way, you're gonna get 3 to 5 phone calls saying, hey, can you do a little better? So the consistency is so key in this business, as well as keeping a record of what you did and then following up again. Like Jesse said,
you must keep a record. Absolutely. You must keep a record of what you're doing so you can continue to follow up on those properties that are still active in the market. If they're active on the market, that means the seller is still looking to sell the property. I don't care what they tell you, some of you've heard me say, well, I sent you an email from a seller saying, we've got 13 offers. We've got a bunch of offers and all of them are higher than yours. I always answer the agent with one question. Why haven't you accepted one?
Hello.
That's it. That's all I want to know. If you've got all of these offers that are close to what the seller wants and higher than mine, and mine is aggravating you, why haven't you accepted one of those offers? A week later, 30 days later, they're still on the property, still active on the market. I send them another offer. This time it's a little bit lower. As a matter of fact, we did that. One of the clients and I did that when a property, and this was I think back in 2018. This was an REO. Our first offer went out something like 175. They were asking something like, almost twice that much. Naturally, the seller's agent came back and said, are you kidding me? This is a bank. Bank would never even consider that.
Right.
2 months later, they called us.
Yep.
Are you guys still interested? Yes. I called the buyer and said, look, our first offer was at this high. Let's knock it down about $25,000. The client said, no, I don't want to go down that far. Don't want to go down that far. And I know some of the things that we do seem, just embarrassing. My thing is I want to know how low the seller will go.
There you go.
That's all I want to know. This client didn't want to do that. The offer that we made almost 2 months later, they decided to take it. But remember, the first offer was higher. They said they would never take it. They took an offer that was lower.
Time and circumstance.
So people ask me all the time, well, why do you send an offer that's lower? Hey, because I don't know how low they'll go.
Exactly. And by the way, if they don't like your, if they really don't like your number, but they like everything else, they'll tell you so.
Right.
Figure it out. So, all right. So a couple questions for you, Jesse. Yeah. If somebody decides that they want to engage you personally, not the world, not you, right? What can they expect if they wind up deciding they want to work with you? What can they expect?
Well, one of the things that you will expect when you're working with me is I have a very regimented schedule.
Okay.
I do things in specific ways. I answer my phone at specific times. When someone, and you will be aware of these things because I will make this known if you decide to engage me. I will tell you how I work so that it's not something that's all of a sudden going to surprise you, you know, but I work in specific manners, and that's because I have to make certain that my business remains a business and does not get so chaotic. Whereas, you know, somebody thinks, well, you know, you can call me 24 hours a day and I'm going to be at your beckoning. No, right. You know, so, and you're going to find most agents that are in this business that are doing this business at a specific level, you know, at this level that I'm working, this level that Sherman is working, you know, Kevin, you're going to find we have regiments. We have ways of doing things.
Right.
I am going to give you certain tools. One of the tools that I usually give my clients is a method to track your sales, track your offers. And you can extend that, you can extend that information out to the extent that you choose, but I give you a sort of like a baseline to use to make it easier for you to, again, be able to go back, you know, a month later and say, okay, I looked at these properties. This property is still in the market in the same area. I know the value of that area. So now this is where I can be for that offer. So your first several offers might be your best guesstimate, but as you start to keep track of the information that you're offering, the offers that you go out, you can now hone your offers even better. So, you know,
so are we going to go to the bowling alley together? Are we going to be best friends, best buds?
You know, that's funny. I'll say this to answer that question. I like COVID, not the disease, but the social distancing aspect. Now I get to, I don't have to excuse myself because I don't want you hugging me. Because nobody is hugging anybody now.
I was expecting, but hey.
So I've been. Go ahead.
Let's talk a little bit about automation. And one of the things that this week is this is a transition week for us. So I wanted to hear you share some insights as to sort of like how the matrix works and why you got out of the matrix and how to hack the matrix. And I think you've given us that. And I think we will open it up for a little bit of Q&A from folks. But the other half of why I really wanted you to share and share some things with us today is because you have successfully mastered the 21-day program and have successfully mastered the automation of the 21-day program. And I wonder if you can share a little insights into, you know, what you do, how you do, and how you put some of the parts of this business on autopilot by having somebody else do 90% of the work so you can keep 90% of the profits. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, the first thing I had to do was learn to do the stuff myself. I had to handwrite these offers. I had to put these offers together. I had to figure out a way to get these offers in the hands of the listing agent. I had to follow up. I had to put all of this in place so that I now know how to do it. If I don't know how to do it, I cannot possibly train someone else in the manner in which I want it done. So when I decided to hire my virtual assistant, and my virtual assistant is in the Philippine Islands. Very lovely girl. She and I, we communicate by way of Skype on a regular basis. I first met her because one of my clients hired her, and she was working for him for about a year before I decided to give her a call. And I asked him for her information. I told him I'm going to call her, and I'm thinking about putting her to work for me. It was very easy for me now to transition because I had everything in place. I already knew how long it takes to write an offer. So once I trained her on exactly the way I wanted it done, not how I wanted her to do it. Mm-hmm. I trained her in the way I wanted it done because I wanted it done a specific way. Once I trained her in that, I now know how long it takes her to write an offer. Mm-hmm. So now I can tell her what offers, what properties I want offers to go out, and I now know how many offers are going to be sent out in a given time period. Mm-hmm. When I first hired her, I had to actually screen my listings for her. I would send her the properties, mm-hmm. But now she now knows me. So now all I tell her are the neighborhoods that I'm looking in. She goes right into the MLS, finds the properties that meet the criteria that I'm looking for, and puts the offer together, submits the offer, and all I have to do is follow up. She's so good, you know, sometimes she follows up even before I do. But I still caution her to say, you know, let me follow up. You know, I know you can do it, but I would prefer to do that, you know?
And on average, what do you think, what's the percentage of your profit you think you're paying out to cover her cost?
I don't even want to talk about that.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
That's kind of embarrassing because folks already hear me talking about, well, if you bring a deal to me, yes, I'll partner with you. The split probably would be something like 90-10. Folks hear me saying that all the time. And, you know, one of my former clients came to me during one of the Deal Makers Workshop a couple of weeks ago, and she says, Jesse, I now partnered with somebody. I now understand what you're talking about, that 90-10 split, because you're going to do all the work. She said, I am in that same position where I'm splitting something 50-50, but I'm end up doing all the work. I said, you understand, whoever has the most experience is going to end up doing the work. Well, one of the things that I do with Mela now is I give her a bonus.
Okay.
And I give her a bonus when I complete a deal because my negotiating with her was so good at the beginning, you know, her pay is sort of minimal.
Got it.
You know, but the great thing about it is she can do the work in such detail in such a short period of time. You know, she can put out, 15, 20 offers in an hour.
So is it fair to say that your negotiating skill allowed you to negotiate a deal with her up front before she fully realized that, and you fully realized that she was going to be doing 95% of the work, not 90% of the work?
Right.
And that she's basically probably making like 5% of the profit?
Yeah. And that's why I now offer, I don't even offer a bonus. When I close a deal that she has helped foster, I give her a bonus. I send her a bonus.
So that equalizes it back to more like a 90-10.
It does help. It helps to equalize that. And for those of you that think I am heartless, it helps to show that I'm not heartless. Okay.
So why don't we do this? Does anybody have any questions that you would like to ask of Jesse? We've covered about 3 different things. We covered, what he was doing before real estate, what he was doing in the world of traditional real estate, what he's been doing as an investor to hack the matrix, and then of course now he's talking about really putting his business on autopilot. Anybody got any questions that you want to ask of Jesse in this sort of this opportunity to have sort of a free-flowing format? You can ask it in the chat box. If it's better for you to go ahead and unmute yourself, raise your hand, and then unmute yourself so we don't have a free-for-all. But who's got questions for Jesse?
Let me say this before anybody asks a question. For those of you that are agents, if you are looking for a place to bring your license where you have an opportunity to think outside the box. This is the place for it. One of the greatest things I love about Sherman is that if I have an idea, all I have to do is go to Sherman and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. And if it makes sense to him and he sees an opportunity for me to make some money, he doesn't try to hinder me. He gives me ideas that can help foster that. But he allows me to think outside the box. And that is a great thing to have when you have a business that is yours. Remember, this is your business, agents.
Yeah.
If your broker has got their finger, I heard somebody say the other day, we were on the Zoom, and somebody said the other day, my broker doesn't hold EMDs. Really? Are you kidding me? Your broker won't hold it. What do you do with your EMD? You put it in your pocket?
Well,
No,
I think what he was saying was send it to the title company. They give it to the title company, but gosh, you know, title company is like everybody thinks the title company is Switzerland. They're neutral, and they're not. Title company will turn that money over to the court system, lickety split, and go, y'all have to go work it out with the judge. Well,
the title company is supposed to be Switzerland, but the title company is the title company. Their main concern is that they don't get in it
themselves, right?
Right. They want to protect themselves.
Yeah. No, but I'll say one thing about what you just said, Jesse, and I appreciate you saying it. It is my perception that most brokers are afraid of their reputation and, quite frankly, afraid of what's in their franchise agreements, because most brokerage firms are franchises. That's true. They're just conditioned to tell everybody no. It's like if you're not out there hustling listings, it's just too easy for them to tell them, no, you can't do that here, you can't do that, no. Then they don't have to worry about actually thinking. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean, because look, if you've got 400, 500 agents,
right,
and one person is doing something, then you got to potentially have 499 agents go, well, look what Jesse's doing now, we want to do it. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, guys, you're supposed to be here, help me get rich by going out getting listings, right? And that's what my franchise agreement says. That's what my whole model's based on. Well, I'm not interested in having 500 agents. I'm not interested in having 100 agents. As far as I'm concerned, if I got 5 good ones, what's the movie line? A few good men and women. If I got a few good ones, that's all I need. And my test, as you know, Jesse, and I'll share it for everybody's benefit, my test is the Washington Post test.
Right.
In other words, if you got an idea and you bring it to me, my only question is, okay, when we read about this on Sunday in the Washington Post, and I have to explain it to my mama, what am I going to tell her? Well, if your idea passes the Washington Post test, meaning it's not illegal, it's not unethical, it's not going to put both of us on the front page of the Post or the Baltimore Sun or whatever in a bad light, then yeah, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And if neither one of us is really sure, let's try it for a certain period of time. And if it doesn't work out,
right,
we'll go in a different direction. But let's at least give it a shot to see if because I'm always trying to be customer centric, membership centric, investor centric. In other words, if investors say this is what they want, they need, let's go with it. You know, a couple of years ago, we had an incident where one of our members felt really unsafe at a property.
Right.
And that got me really thinking about this whole sort of personal protection thing. And we're rolling out a series of classes on personal protection that goes everything from, you know, pepper spray all the way up to should you be wearing and carrying, right? And there's a lot of brokerage firms that, quite frankly, won't even touch that. They don't want to be anywhere near that conversation. But the reality is, every year the National Association of Realtors puts out a survey on personal safety. And every year the number's been climbing. Something in the order of 24,000 real estate agents were attacked doing open houses last year. 24,000. That's kind of a problem, folks. And that's kind of a problem you don't sweep under the rug. You need to talk about it. And what happens to agents can also happen to investors. So
it happens oftentimes to investors. Yes.
Yeah, I'm like, we need to talk about this issue. We need to talk about what protection methods you use and what personal protection techniques you need to know, including starting with situational awareness. Like, first thing you do when you get in your car, I don't care where you are, is lock the door. How many people don't even lock the door when they get in their car, right? and just having a dialogue and an understanding and a conversation. And there's a lot of brokerage firms out there that just don't want to touch it. They're like, if it doesn't have anything to do with getting listings, we're not going to talk about it here. I'm like, that's crazy. You should be talking about the things that are important to your clients and things that are important to your agents.
Absolutely.
That's how you remain viable. So yeah, I am open to have conversations that other brokers, quite frankly, don't want to have. So absolutely, that's true. So thank you. All right. So,
well, and again, folks, it should amaze everyone that out of all of these, whatever you call them, gurus, mini rus, whatever you call them, everybody and their mama teaches or says they teach real estate investing or training in real estate. Sherman has gone out to get a state certification. Real Investors it falls up under the Maryland Higher Education. Do you understand who falls up under the Maryland Higher Education Commission? Universities, high schools, all of these schools are regulated by Maryland Higher Education. Real Investors falls up under that same category. So that puts us in a completely different category when it comes down to training for yourself and your business. That's one thing you really have to understand and think about. We're not in the same category as everybody else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just, so.
Appreciate it. All right, so we're getting some questions now. So we have a little conversation. Everybody was like, okay, I want to ask some questions. On average, so Jesse, on average, how long do you mentor new investors in the apprentice? Oh, the apprentice program is 90 days. That's a 90-day program. What other mistakes do you see new investors make besides not following up on offers? So Jesse, I think that's for you. What other mistakes do you see investors making besides not following up?
Oh my gosh. All of them. What don't they? I expect a new investor to make a mistake. I don't necessarily, I'll tell you something that happened the other day. This is not just new investors, but again, it falls up under the category. I had a client email me about the weasel clause, because apparently you were talking about the weasel clause, and client emailed me about the weasel clause and said, hey, is the weasel clause in our contract? I don't see it. And I was like, really? You have been writing offers. You have been signing this document, and you did not read and see what that weasel clause is? Folks,
they were looking for paragraph 25. Weasel.
No, folks, when you get the documents, please read it over so that you know where things are, so that you understand what you are signing. But yes, I actually pointed it out to the client. Yes, it's there. Yeah. Here it is. But you guys should be aware that when you sign, remember, when you sign this document, it is now a document that is going out to the seller. Once the seller signs it and initials it, it is now something that you are contracted and responsible for.
Right.
Your name and initials are on it already. So if you don't know what's in there, you shouldn't be sending it out.
Right. Which is why we make them handwrite them to start.
Right. That is the great thing about handwriting them.
Yeah, everybody balks at handwriting, and I have to explain, you're not handwriting the whole thing, you're just filling in the blank and scratching some stuff out. But if you fill in the blank and you scratch some stuff out by hand, chances are you're going to be reading them as you're filling in the blanks.
That's the great thing about handwriting the offer. It almost forces you to, I mean, I know some of you still don't read it, but hey, just like you guys, I balked at handwriting. My gosh, are you kidding me? I got to handwrite this thing?
Yes, you did.
I went to Sherman and said, hey, can I do this? And Sherman said, no. So I had to handwrite this thing until later. Hey, and he said, okay, now you can do this.
Hey, Jesse, how many of the 40,000 real estate agents in Maryland do you think actually understand what's in that contract before they have to fill it out on behalf of their client? Maybe 5%.
I'm embarrassed at how low that number probably really is.
Yeah, yeah, and it's because they're just going through the motions without really understanding what they're doing.
And so let me give everybody an example.
Yeah.
Okay. I had an agent call me. Yes, today is Tuesday. Okay, so he called me yesterday morning, Monday morning. Said, Mr. Marks, didn't call me quite that. I'm nicening this up.
Yeah.
But he said, I received 3 offers from your blah 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 office on the same property. I said, yes, sir. Okay. Well, why you send me 3 offers? I don't understand. Which one you want me to present? I said, well, either my assistant, my virtual assistant, has made a gross error, or you didn't read those documents.
There you go.
I said, now, which one do you think it is? I said, those are 3 separate clients, right. 3 different clients, 3 different offers, and you didn't pay attention to. He got these offers and did not read them.
Right.
He got them on 3 separate days.
Right.
3 different days.
Right. And he should have presented all 3.
All 3 of them.
Even if it was a mistake, he still got to present all 3.
So this is some of the things that we as investors have to deal with, in terms of
and as agents. And again, I think a lot of folks don't really understand the sort of meat grinder world of agent to agent communication. It gets really choppy in there. It can get really ugly in there because people just don't do what they're supposed to do. And
I'm going to tell you guys. I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. Everybody huddle in. Come on in close. A little secret. Do you know, subject to the approval of the hard money lender, do you realize that is a financial contingency? We just don't word it like that. You know why? Because most agents will not recognize it.
Exactly.
Every now and then I run into an agent that says, Mr. Marks, this is a financial contingency. You should actually word it. And I say, well, this is the way our client wants us to word it. If you want us to change that, we will change it. And if they say, I go back to the client and say, hey, the seller is interested in changing that, but we can add another contingency, we can put inspection, whatever. But in most instances,
so here's the quiz question for everybody, because you guys have written up offers now to know the correct answer. Why don't we word it as a financial contingency and stick it in that block, which I think is page 2. Page 2. Right. Why don't we put it as exactly? See, our folks already know more than 99.9% of the agents, because when the time is of the essence clause kicks in, the number one thing that the buyer is responsible for is submitting the paperwork to get the loan in a timely manner. If you put it in the terms that the matrix wants you to put it in, you have deadlines you have to meet as the buyer. The submission of your application for the loan. But if we cross that out and substitute the words subject to the approval of hard money lender, well, subject to the approval of hard money lender when?
Yeah.
Whenever you want it to be, including 10 minutes before settlement.
I told you guys that little secret so you understand that you know more than the average agent.
I'm telling you, they'll get one day. Remember what Josh Stone said? One day you realize Sherman told you more than you needed to know, and you'd be like, doggone it, I'm so glad I'm Mr. Miyagi, folks. Wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off, right.
I'm not
when you gonna teach me real estate, Sherman? When you gonna teach me real estate?
This ain't no boot camp. This is not something that if you get this, if you really get this, this is the stuff that will last you a whole lifetime as an investor and keep you out of trouble. One of these days, the light bulb will go on and you're like, the brilliance of subject to the approval of my hard money lender with no deadlines, no submission dates, none of that, meaning you can literally walk up and at 11:59 and 30 seconds, hand in your rejection letter and you get your earnest money deposit back and you get to walk scot-free.
The great thing about it, and this has happened between me and Howard, we had a deal that we were doing way back when. At the settlement table, Howard said, hey, I have not found a buyer. I don't think I can go through it. Told him, Howard, call the hard money lender. Yep. Explain it to the hard money lender. We came to the settlement table with a hard money letter rejecting this deal. Now, what we said was to the seller is we would like to go on with this deal. Unfortunately, our hard money lender will not allow us to do it at this price. And the hard money lender had a price in his letter.
Right.
And we negotiated at the settlement table for that price and still closed the deal. Just got them to drop the price because they wanted to close the deal. They didn't want to put it back on the market. So try to find another buyer.
So let me ask a question. Those of you who are actually paying attention today, by the way, we just had 3 people drop off in the last 10 minutes. I guess it started getting too hard. But those of you who are still here paying attention, where in the 60-hour training did your cousin Sadie learn what Jesse just said? And why in the world would you ever want to use cousin Sadie when at the end of the day, the seller's paying the commission and the seller's going to pay the commission to a good agent and the seller's going to pay a commission to your cousin Sadie who don't know jack? I'm saying having the right buyer's agent in there fighting for you is the difference between you making a deal and making a lot of money and the deal blowing up in your face at the last minute. And it can happen. If you got the wrong person negotiating, going head to head with that seller's agent, your deal can evaporate in a heartbeat if they don't know what they're doing, okay? It makes a huge difference. And while there may be 40,000 agents who are licensed by the state of Maryland, the state of Maryland could care less whether they make money or you make money. All they care about is fair housing. You with me? Having a license is simply to protect the public because it means that the agent has to follow certain rules. But having a real estate license doesn't guarantee you're going to win the Indy 500, make any money in real estate any more than having a driver's license means you're going to win the Indy 500. Having the license is the start, not the end of professionalism. And most agents, quite frankly, never hear that message and don't understand that. Got it? Anybody seeing, if you've seen a difference based on what Jesse's saying, give me a thumbs up. As Jack Nicholson said, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. All right, another question. Somebody says, in response to the safety issues, does this program encourage virtual wholesaling? As far as I'm concerned, all wholesaling is virtual. As far as I'm concerned, all wholesaling is virtual. I've never, ever in 20 years, ever met with somebody who was buying a property from me at the property. You know where we meet? At the bank when they hand over my cashier's check. Well, if you can't trust the lobby of the bank as being one of the safe, I mean, who's going to pull a fast one on you in the lobby of a bank? Come on now. Most banks today have metal detectors where you can go inside. So
and I'll give you one better than that.
Yeah.
It's wired.
yeah, exactly. Cameras everywhere.
I give them bank information. You wire the funds. When I verify the funds are there, then I'll release what I need to release to you.
Yeah, but when the time comes for you to wholesale the property you have under contract, you are not meeting your buyer at the property.
Right.
Once you have that property tied up, you'll say to that buyer, I have a contract on a property at 123 Maple. And you're the first person I'm calling, but I'm getting ready to call 10 more people. If you want it, let me know ASAP, text me back, and be prepared to meet me before 5 o'clock at the lobby of the bank with a check. Or as Jesse said, be prepared to wire funds. So somebody's definition of virtual is you never have to meet face-to-face with anybody, that's what we're teaching. Now, if your definition of virtual is you're gonna go buy some property halfway around the world and try to wholesale it, that's beyond the scope of this class. But I've kind of sort of done that, kind of. I mean, I bought properties from a beach chair going on the auction sites like auction.com or Hubzu. And I was in St. Thomas sitting on a beach chair. And when Hubzu came back and said, you know, well, Hubzu doesn't say congratulations, you won. But when I was making the offers on Hubzu, I needed to have my contractor go out and look at the property. And I was in St. Thomas and he was in Capitol Heights or in Capitol Heights and in Glenarden, sorry. And my contractor basically video conferenced me from the house while I was on a beach chair. So if that's your definition of virtual, yeah, that's what we're teaching.
So Ms. Pinkett, was there something else that you meant in reference to virtual wholesaling? Something that we might not understand? So what did you mean? You unmute yourself.
Kennedy, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us what you're thinking.
Okay, thank you. So the question was really posed in response to the concerns about safety at the home, as well as during the closing and settlement. I just wasn't sure. I'm visual, so I'm just trying to envision what that will look like with the contractor at the settlement table. Is everything done literally virtually, no contact at all whatsoever?
So I recommend that when you get that phone call from Jesse who says, congratulations, you're highest and best, and we got 72 hours, go look at the house. I do recommend going out with the contractor. However, if it's a contractor you don't know and you're not comfortable with that idea, then I would advocate having the contractor walk through the property on their iPhone or on their Droid so that you can see what they're looking at. And that also gives you an opportunity for a recording of that session, which you can then go back and watch over and over again. Now, you should be sitting there with your checklist asking about certain things. And the checklist is in the book that I sent you guys, but apparently some of you guys didn't get it. So I'll resend it again and you'll have the book. But in the book is a checklist for cost estimating with a contractor. So you just say to the contractor, okay, let's go look at these things. So first thing usually is the exterior windows, is what's going on with the heat pump or the air conditioning unit, what's going on with the possibility of there being any water penetration potentially into the house because of the slope of the house, all right? Then we go inside, and normally I like to look at the foundation, excuse me, while you're also outside, look at the windows, see what the condition of the windows are. In case you gotta replace windows, look at the condition of the siding, in case you gotta replace siding, look at the condition of the soffit or the roof, the overhang of the roof to make sure that that's not rotted out. And then we go inside the house and we look at basement first, and then first floor, and then second floor upstairs, right? And then the checklist is like looking at certain things and just making sure you don't miss anything, right? That can be done 100% virtually, without a doubt.
Okay.
And I've done it. The technology being what it is today, you know, when I did the original 21-day course 20 years ago, iPhone hadn't even come out yet. So the only way that could have been done is somebody take a camcorder, which usually meant somebody holding the camcorder and videotaping. Now, pretty much everybody knows how to hold that cell phone and just, you know, flip the camera around and do a walkthrough. And you just need to have your checklist to make sure they're looking at all the different elements and that they're recording it for you. So there is no reason why you would have to go visit a property. Absolutely none. Absolutely none if safety is a concern. Now, will you pick up some stuff looking at a property versus looking at a video? Always. But if one is concerned about, hey, I'm not real comfortable going to meet a contractor I've never met before at a property I've never been to before, absolutely you can do that virtually. Absolutely.
Thanks for clarifying.
Okie doke. Yeah, there's some folks out there selling $3,000 programs that will quote unquote be a virtual wholesaler, and I just laugh. I'm like, 99% of what we do today is virtual. And what they're really talking about is making offers on properties halfway around the world and then trying to find out. I mean, that to me, that's crazy. I have no idea what the marketplace is in Kansas City, Missouri. Right. I've been to Kansas City once, had the barbecue. It wasn't bad. Still ain't as good as Atlanta barbecue, but that's another story for another day. But I would no way try to buy houses in Kansas City to resell to people in Kansas City. I got plenty of opportunities right here in Prince George's County, Maryland.
Plenty of them.
but even what I'm doing here in Prince George's, I can do 100% virtually and never have to leave my house, even though the property's 15, 20 minutes away. So, Jesse, you want to say something?
Well, I just want to say, everybody, I don't care how big and strong you are, guys. I know some of us, we had that bravado. But no matter how big and strong you are, everybody should have some concerns about safety, because if you don't, then you will do things that don't make sense, that could endanger yourself. But Sherman has a class coming up to help us become more situationally aware of what's going on. And that's going to be the most important thing. So I suggest everybody takes that class.
Yeah, well, yes. And the class is going to be done online, hour and a half.
Right.
I'll get you guys the details later on before we wrap up this class. But I'll tell you this little insider secret. The first rule of safety is not what caliber pistol you have in your pocket. That's not the first rule of safety. The first rule of safety is avoid bad situations, avoidance. That's always the first rule of safety. Be situationally aware. And if there's an A way to do it and a B way to do it, and the B way involves avoidance, like what Kennedy's talking about, doing it virtually, pick avoidance first, and then deal with, okay, well, I have to go. Okay, now how do you protect yourself when you have to go, right? So next question from Mark. When do you provide the address of the property to potential buyers? Do you ever set up a time to show the property to keep them from talking to the owner? So my rule is you don't ever disclose the address until you have it under contract. If you have a buyer's list and you want to generically talk to a buyer about a certain part of town or a certain zip code, look, they got the same tools you got. Chances are they may be bidding against you, or chances are they're not even paying attention. You just never know. But I would never divulge the address until I have a ratified contract. And if you do it the way that we're teaching it, the way that Jesse helps people do it, once you get a ratified contract, you should expect to wholesale that property within about 2 or 3 days. If you still got that property in 2 or 3 days, you are clearly not working hard enough at wholesaling it, because every deal I ever wholesaled, it was gone by my second or third phone call. I was picking up check because nobody was really wiring money 20 years ago. I was picking up check from somebody at the bank lobby within 24 hours, right? So, because I wasn't accepting personal checks. You're not tying my property up on a personal check. Are you crazy? I want cash. I want a wire. I want a cashier's check. Money order worked just fine too, because you're not going to pull a fancy one in the post office lobby either, right? But for the most part, if the deal's good enough, you should expect to wholesale that deal to somebody else, and they're going to recognize how good that deal is, and they're not going to play any games with you. They're just not. So.
And like Sherman said, if you don't have the property under contract and you make the address known, you will lose that deal. Yes, that's almost a guarantee.
Yes,
you will lose that deal.
So Dorothy says, Jesse's protection posts on Facebook have helped me tremendously. All right.
you like my Dorothy? You like the one with the Elmer Fudd and the rabbit?
No.
The rabbit get the drop on Elmer Fudd. No, let me stop.
So Dorothy, just an insider joke, just so you know. We set up a Facebook page called Real Investors Personal Protection Alumni because we are teaching these classes, and we wanted to have the Facebook group already up and running before we start offering the class. And Jesse was the first person invited into the group. And Jesse's posting all these pictures of like mice holding cheese with a gun. I'm like, Jesse, you can't be posting that stuff in the Facebook group. So he's very quickly switched from the sort of tongue-in-cheek stuff of, the victim taking control, right, to posting really good stuff like ASP. What's that guy's name? John Correa. John Correa, who has a whole series of videos on he gets different videos sent in from police officers. He mainly uses police officer footage or footage that comes from the official cam. And he shows different scenarios of people who have fallen victim to criminals, where either they take some action to defend themselves, or he points out, why they weren't situationally aware, like, people walking around all the time with cell phones,
with their cell phone,
not really paying attention to what's going on, and people come up and knock them upside the head, right? And so John Correa has this whole thing called ASP, where he does, and they're real short, like what, 2 to 3, 4 minutes long?
Yeah, usually no more than about 4 or 5 minutes. Yeah.
And then he does a quick analysis of why you don't want to be this guy, or you don't want to be this gal, or where people have effectively defended themselves. And it's great little snippets of information to help sort of reinforce this message that it's a dangerous world out there. And if you don't want to fall victim, if you don't want to be a victim, you got to kind of be aware of what's going on in your surroundings and be prepared to act when something bad happens. Because if you don't have a plan, you're gonna be in trouble. So that's
Right.
because some of the videos that Jesse's been putting into Facebook, and they're really good. But we'll be, again, that's not the purpose of this class or today's session, but we will be getting information out to everybody about the 3 classes we're offering. One is called Personal Protection 101, which is really all about situational awareness and things you can do to defend yourself that are what I would call non-lethal: pepper spray, alarm systems, things to keep people from breaking down your front door if you find yourself victim of a home invasion, which can be very ugly, very dangerous, and very offensive. When people invade somebody's house, they got guns ablazing. There's 3 or 4 to the house. It's not good. But
and you never feel, as a former police officer, I've seen it many times. You never feel the same about being in your home.
Yeah.
You never feel the
simple
same.
things you can do, like just putting a door jam. It won't stop them, but it'll slow them down long enough for you to be able to figure out what you're going to do next, as opposed to having somebody right up on top of you.
Right.
But so 101 is personal protection, situational awareness, using non-lethal devices. 201 is what's necessary, specifically in Maryland, to get a handgun permit. Maryland is one of those states that requires you to take a class before you can get a handgun, even to put in your own home. And so it's all about having a firearm in the home. Things like, you need how are you going to keep that out of the hands of your kids? How are you going to keep that out of the hands of visitors? So there's a whole conversation that needs to take place. What the rules are, what the law is, et cetera, et cetera. And then 301 is really about concealed carry, or sort of personal protection outside the house. There are some agents and some investors who feel like they want to have something a little bit peppier than pepper spray. And then there's some folks who are like, no, I don't want to go down that path. And the whole purpose of the class is to help people understand, what does it mean? Not just simply, I went to the store and bought something, but how do you carry it? How do you carry it properly? How do you store it properly? If you wind up going into a bank, you can't just leave that thing on the car seat, and you can't take it into the bank. So that kind of stuff. And then mentally, the mental and sort of ethical and even religious overtones of what does it mean to actually have a lethal weapon on you when you're traveling outside your home. And everybody has to decide for themselves whether or not they want to go that far. But that's why we have 3 different classes: 101,
Right.
201, 301. And we'll be getting everybody information on that shortly. Okay. So back to today's session. How long does it typically take for a newbie to wholesale a contract, since newbie does not yet have a buyer's list? You can't build a buyer's list until you have a deal. What's your thoughts on that, Jesse?
Well, that's really easy. Once you have a deal, now keep in mind, if you have a deal, not just because you have a property under contract, you go out there and offer the seller 100% of what the seller wants, you have a property under contract, but it's probably not a deal.
Right.
So once you have a deal, then you should be able to get that deal sold to a secondary buyer. In other words, wholesale that deal probably within a week, no more than a week and a half. And you will begin to build your buyer's list at that point. So, it's all about your marketing. Now, that being said, if you have a deal and don't tell anybody, you're never going to sell it. So it's all about telling everybody.
Then you will be one of our
go everywhere and let everybody know. Right. Go everywhere and let everybody know. Hey, I've got this deal. Here it is. But again, you got to make certain it's a deal.
Right.
Everybody's interested in making money.
Sherman, can you please go over another example of how you find properties using HomeSnap? I'm not going to do that today because we're going to have a special session, I think, on Thursday with our investors of the year. And they're going to talk about the deals they're working on right now, and also how they use HomeSnap and how they use the 21-day course in HomeSnap. Or again, I don't like to call it HomeSnap or listing book, whatever. It's Real Investors Mobile MLS, because the simple fact of the matter is the tool itself changes about every 3 or 4 years. And somebody watching this video 3 or 4 years from now going like, what's HomeSnap? Well, that's what we like.
Yeah.
Like people right now, what's listing book? Where do I find listing book? You don't.
I heard somebody say listing books in one of the video, and I know everybody was wondering what's listing books.
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore, right? Because it was replaced by
Right.
HomeSnap, and at some point, HomeSnap. So that's why we give out Real Investors Mobile MLS, because if the Board of Realtors decides to cut it, that's how it works. The Board of Realtors cuts a deal with a vendor. If the Board of Realtors cuts a deal with a different vendor because somebody gave them better price or better option,
Right.
whatever, they drop HomeSnap to the curb just like they drop listing book to the curb. We don't want you guys to be looking for some old outdated technology. Just bookmark Real Investors Mobile MLS, and whatever the tool du jour is, that's where you'll find it, and we'll make sure that we train you on how to use it. So long story short, yes, I will go over, well, I won't go over, but I have somebody go over before this class is over, how to actually use that tool to tighten up on your comps, pulling comps, and also farming different neighborhoods for deals. If you assign a contract to a buyer in 3 days, then is it the buyer's responsibility to get the title work started? It's your responsibility as a wholesaler to get the title work started. Because what if you sign it to a buyer and they don't start title work for 3 or 4 weeks? And then they turn around and walk away from the deal because they're like, well, the title company couldn't get the deal done in time. Well, yeah, if you start title work 3 weeks after the contract's ratified, they may not be able to get it done in time to close within a week. So you, in my opinion, you need to take control of your business. Jesse, you got a different opinion on that?
No, a perfect example. I mean, if you were on the call the other day, you heard Sherman say, when you get the deal under contract, send it to the title company.
Same day.
Start the process.
Same day.
All right, start the process. I do that as an agent. If a client hands me a contract, and hey, first thing I do is say, hey, do you have a title company? If they say no, then I suggest a couple of title companies, have them choose one, and immediately send it to the title company. We want title work to begin immediately.
Bingo. All right, anybody else got any other questions for Jesse? Jesse, you got any parting thoughts?
Well, I see a question from Mr. Young, and Mr. Young had the benefit of being on a call with me. He had a property in DC that a seller presented to him, and he sent it to me. I told him I'd take a look at it, which I did. It's a particularly good opportunity because it's DC. So we got on the call with the seller. The seller is let me go back, because I don't want to I have to watch my language because some people are so, lightweight. Yeah. The seller is not thinking about the property. The seller is only thinking about what she wants for the property.
Right.
But he had the benefit of listening to my conversation with this seller to find out how and where I take conversations. So you asked the question, where in your development did you have to grow? I am still continuing to grow. You have to grow out. You have to step outside your comfort zone at all times. But once you do, once you stretch yourself, you never go back. You never shrink back. But you always have to step outside your comfort zone. And I'm praying that when you heard during that conversation, you understood, so you could hear and how I sort of directed the seller during that conversation, so you can understand that you are in charge, because no matter what the seller knows, and this seller just happened to be an attorney, and attorneys know more than anybody in the world. so they think, but I just was having a conversation with her. I wasn't trying to convince her. I just let her know that based upon my evaluation, there's no way in the world you're going to get what you think you want from me. If you say you have somebody that's willing to pay that, I wished her well. I said, hey, take that offer. By all means, take it.
Right.
So yes, you're going to always be growing in this business, Mr. Young. Always, and never be afraid to step outside your comfort zone a little bit, because doing that will help you to grow.
Where can we share our offers today outside of the Dealmaker Workshop? We're going to get to that segment tomorrow, but I'll go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. You can go to Real Offers. You can go to meetup groups. You can go to Facebook groups. And you should be, as you guys may remember, anybody remember me saying week 1, like day 2 or 3, Go join the real estate meetup groups. Go join the Facebook groups. Okay, that's where you're going to put your offers. And there are plenty of groups right here in the local area that are real estate investors. Now, 99% of the people in those groups are never going to do anything, but that's okay. You just need one. If that group's got 1,000 people in it, there's probably 10 people who are doing something. You want to say something, Jesse?
You know, folks, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to be quiet. Be thankful for Sherman, because you would have got a totally different answer from me. Sherman is just telling you the exact same thing he's already told you. Be thankful for him. He's just, I mean, he just reiterates stuff. He is so kind, and I love this guy. You would have got a totally different answer from me.
Well, but, you know, if my blood sugar gets low enough, it'd be like, what part of day one don't you understand? But hey, I had something to eat before I came. I got to remind myself, eat before you go on, otherwise you're grumpy. Hey, Jesse, do you use look over your shoulder approach when mentoring, or do you advise us on steps we need to take? What are your mentoring hours? Now look, Jesse will have his answer, and then I'll have Jesse's answer, but I want Jesse to go first.
Look. Sherman has been attempting to get me to do a look over your shoulder program for as long as I've been in here. Yeah. And I've got the same answer. I don't want anybody in my car.
Yeah. So now let me give you the right answer, Kenyette. When Jesse does the Deal Makers Workshop, that is his look over my shoulder program.
There you go.
When Jesse says I charge $500 for me to work with you, that is his look over my shoulder fee. And
you get 2 hours every week at the Deal Makers Workshop, absolutely free. You can ask me any question. I will give you exactly how I would do anything if you ask the right question as to how I would do something. Yeah. Perfect. You know what? I never even thought about that, but that is absolutely correct, Sherman.
I oftentimes describe a look over my shoulder program as you putting people in your car, and
right,
because that's how I did it and that's how I learned it. But look over my shoulder, when you really break it down, it is what it means. Let me give you a chance to look over my shoulder and let me show you how I do what I do. And the most important thing is you get paid, right? You're not, see, what happens is once you get going and people find out you know what you're talking about, they want to take you out to Starbucks. They want to take you to Burger King. That's a total waste of your freaking time. On top of which it advantages them and totally disadvantages you. So I say, take control of the situation and offer an opportunity for people to look over your shoulder and charge them $500. If somebody will not pay you $500 for the value you bring, they're telling you they don't value you at all. They just want it for free. That's like the guy who says, "No, baby, I don't want to get married. I just want to keep on dating. And I want to date everybody else too." Right? Like, come on, dude.
Once you start doing this business, once you start doing this business and start making money and get good at it, everybody you know is going to want to know what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Exactly. And you should have some system where once a week you are giving people a chance to look over your shoulder and you are charging them a minimum of $500. And if the only way you can do it is this sort of old archaic way that Sherman used to describe it in the original version of the 21-day course of putting people in your car, well, 4 people in your car at $500 a head is $2,000. If you do that every week, do the math. If you do that every week, take off 2 weeks for Christmas, that's $100,000 for letting people watch you do what you do. Do you know who else does that kind of thing? Charging people to just Oprah. That idea is what made Oprah Winfrey a billionaire. She did a show in Chicago, one show. And her ex-boyfriend, Gene Siskel, says, "This is a pretty good show. Have you ever thought about syndicating it?" And Oprah's response is, "What syndication?" And he's like, doing the same show, but putting it on a satellite dish and beaming it to another city. And now you're getting paid to have a whole nother group of people watch you do what you do. And then another group of people watch you do what you do. And she's like, "Well, what extra thing do I have to do?" He's like, "Nothing. If you're in Chicago and you're going to put the satellite in St. Louis, you're not doing a second show in St. Louis. You're not flying to St. Louis. You're just letting people in St. Louis watch you do what you do in Chicago. You guys understand this whole idea of a look over my shoulder? I just stole it from Oprah. Because when I realized that's what made her a billionaire, I'm like, how I make money off of this? I told you guys at the very beginning. I get up every single day when I read the newspaper, I see something like, how do I make money off of this? How can I take an idea that's working over here and make it work for me? Well, this whole concept of a look over my shoulder is nothing more than you do the thing, right? Is everybody kind of clear that Jesse's got some special gifts, some special talents, some special skills in negotiating and dealing, right? So now you want to learn how Jesse does what he does? Jesse going to give you a chance to look over his shoulder and watch him do what he does. Now, he can't have you on the phone when he's negotiating with Glavin DaCosta and Faith Roselle. First of all, Maryland doesn't allow us to record those conversations without telling people. But he can set up one day a week to have his clients come in, talk about a deal, and he says, okay, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, like this. And everybody can learn from, hey, watching Jesse cut a deal. Everybody. Experienced agents can learn, inexperienced agents can learn, experienced investors can learn, inexperienced, like people can learn by watching the man do his magic. So why shouldn't he charge people a modest fee to let them look over his shoulder and watch him do what he does? And he does that. He says to his clients, if you want me to be the guy who works the magic for you, I charge an upfront $500 fee. And then make sure that in addition to everything else I tell you, come to the Dealmaker Workshop and watch me do what I do.
Absolutely.
That is a look over my shoulder program, folks.
Now, if you bring me a deal, I will allow you then to be just like I was telling you about Mr. Young. He brought a deal to me, and he got a chance to listen to a conversation that I had with this seller. So if you bring me a deal and I'm looking at that deal as something that's potential, I will allow you then to sit in and do a three-way conversation. If that deal goes forward, not only will you be a part of that deal and get paid, get some profit, but you'll get copies of all of the documents that I use to do the deal, no matter how I do the deal, whether I do the, and I presented to this particular seller a creative financing deal, where she could probably get what she wanted. She would just have to wait. She was not willing to wait, and I understand everybody isn't. So one of the things you'll do as a new investor is if you have a deal and you don't know what to do with it, bring it to a more experienced investor and say, hey, I know I might not make a lot of money from this, but can I watch you do it? Because most of us will say yes.
So Kennedy, to answer your question, Jesse's Look Over His Shoulder program takes place every Tuesday from 7 to 9 at the Dealmaker Workshop, and it is done virtually. And if you want him to work the magic for you, he charges a $500 upfront look over my shoulder fee, okay? And for that, you not only get to see him do what he does at the Dealmaker Workshop on Tuesdays, you get a chance to work with him personally, and when he's ready to negotiate a deal, if it's a deal that he's negotiating on your behalf, you get to watch him do what he does. Does that help? Okay. So no, Jesse's not putting anybody in his car. And you know what? Neither am I anymore. We have totally redefined what look over my shoulder looks like, right? No longer are we putting people in the car, right? COVID changed everything. All right.
It didn't for me, but you know.
You didn't like people to begin with. That we know. But you liked them. Hey, you liked them well enough to show up every Tuesday for the past 10 years. So
absolutely.
You know, a little bit.
Folks don't realize I love the Dealmakers Workshop. It gives me an opportunity not only to, talk about the experiences that I'm having in this business, but it also reiterates to me the things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, you talk about aha moments. There are oftentimes in the Dealmakers Workshop when someone in the audience will say something and I get an aha moment simply because I made a statement to them and they replied back to me.
Right.
So it's a learning experience for me as well.
So guys, here's another one of those. I thought we'd go for an hour, and 3 hours later. So we gotta wind this thing down, wrap this thing up. Does anybody have any other questions for Jesse before I give you your homework assignments? Anybody got any other questions for Jesse? Don't be shy.
No,
Dorothy,
be shy.
Dorothy says, I found Realinvestors a great place to find buyers. Thank you, Dorothy. Appreciate that. As are meetups, Facebook, Craigslist, most meetups, quite frankly, have shut down and don't have face-to-face, but the meetup groups are still going, and lots of people are posting deals in those meetup groups. Great place to find buyers and build your buyers list. All right, anybody else? All right, Jesse, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Give Jesse a big hand. And let me go ahead and wrap this thing up. So back to sharing the screen. So we had a chance to hear from Mr. X, and your homework is I will be sending out again the week 3 booklet. Please just look at the forms. We're going to go through the forms at length tomorrow. So tomorrow is our chance to go through those forms, those checklists, those guides, as we begin to put in place a process for evaluating offers, getting offers out the door, following up on offers, meeting with the contractor, and then putting this thing out to wholesale and build our buyers list. So there's a form and a checklist for every one of those things in the week 3 guide. When you get the week 3 guide, just scan it, bring it with you. If you want to print it out, that's fine, have it available. But all that stuff we're going to go over tomorrow, okay? So here's our case study for today. And I don't know why that's there. I should clean that up. Here we go. Case study for today.
This deal was referred to me from a previous client who knew I handle and work with sellers that are in trouble and have difficult properties to sell. I did have one other partner on this deal named Maxine Jones. She's a member of Realinvestors as well. One of the fundamental ways of buying properties is through a method called subject to. What that means is buying the property subject to the existing mortgage. So when I talked to the seller, she had had some difficulty selling this property. She had attempted to sell this property for several years. No one was able to close the deal because of the extent of the damage and the repairs that the property needed. So I made an agreement with her to purchase the property subject to the existing mortgage, which simply means the mortgage stayed in place. I paid the mortgage, which relieved her from paying a monthly amount. Additionally, I did agree once we completed the property repairs and sold the property, that I would give her a portion of the proceeds as part of payment as well. In addition to the subject to being one of the fundamental ways to make money in real estate and buy properties, there are several creative methods to buy properties using no money down techniques, including lease with an option to buy, as well as the land contract for deed. These are fundamental ways that you can buy properties without using any of your money. My name is Jesse Marks. I made $130,000 profit on this rehab deal. I am a real investor and I get real checks.
Woo! Get him, Jesse. So, you guys beginning to see how if we just get started with that wholesaling the right way by hacking the matrix, that other opportunities present themselves to us, that other doors of opportunity, like getting into a sub-2 deal, getting into a lease option deal. Once we go in motion, all kinds of opportunities start coming our way. And if we build our team the right way, when those opportunities come our way, like this deal that came by Jesse and Maxine's way, then your rock star diamond member coach can help you negotiate a deal that makes sense and put money in your pocket. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being Sherman, that was really terrible tonight. I'm not coming back tomorrow. 5 being, I'll see you 7 o'clock, bright and early, bushy-tailed, so we can talk about automating the business. How do we do tonight? Tell me how we did. Scale of 1 to 5. All right. 5, 5, 5. Thank you, Jesse. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5 plus. Hey! Thank you, guys. I hope that this was great for you. I had a good time. Jesse, thank you for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us. Guys, see you soon. See you tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Homework, read the book, or look at the book, look at the forms, be ready to talk about them tomorrow. 7 o'clock, see you then.